Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call to order the West Covina City Council meeting of March 4th. We will start tonight with our invocation from Police Officer Jeff Mosley and our Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Mike Spence. Please rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in your love, you sent us your Son, a servant. He humbled himself for our sake and accepted death on a cross. You raised him to unending life. We give you thanks for your presence here tonight and for the freedom we have to gather as a community in order to discuss important matters that will influence and shape the future of our city. We ask for your grace and divine blessing this evening as we address these matters. Lord, we pray that you will give our Mayor, Steve Herford, Mayor Pro Tem Frederick Sykes, and fellow City Council members James Toma, Mike Spence, and Corey Warshaw the ability to lead our city with integrity, humility, and compassion in accordance with your will. Give them wisdom and guidance as they work diligently to find solutions and address each of the difficult challenges at hand. Bless each and every person here tonight. Draw us closer together as a community and help us to set the example for other communities around us. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Officer Mosley. Appreciate that. City Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Herford.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Here.
Councilmember Spence.
Here.
Councilmember Toma.
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we were in closed session before we came out tonight. City Attorney, do we need to report out anything from closed session?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. The record should reflect that the City Council and the Council seated as the successor agency convened this evening for closed session matters that were posted on the agenda. That there was also a adjourned special meeting of the City Council and successor agency, which I will address separately. The matters that were handled this evening in closed session included the items involving the City of West Covina successor agency and the Department of Finance. The record should reflect that four of the members were present in closed session, with the exception of Council Member and the Successor Agency Member Toma, inasmuch as Council Member and Successor Agency Toma is employed by the California Attorney General's Office, and the California Attorney General's Office is also representing the Department of Finance concerning the DOF matters. The record should further reflect that the City Council and the Successor Agency received a briefing from the City Attorney's Office and Counsel for the Successor Agency, that after that briefing, the City Council and the Successor Agency authorized the appeal of the decision from the Superior Court in the County of Sacramento on this matter. And that was unanimous by the four members that were in closed session. Council members, Successor Agency members Spence, Sykes, Herford, and Warshaw. Moving on to the adjourned special meeting. That was an adjourned special meeting from yesterday, March 3rd. That dealt with the City of West Covina and Hassan Imports Partnership matters. Those cases were not discussed at the first portion of the open session. They will be carried over until after the open portion of the City Council meeting. That is my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager, any changes to the agenda tonight?
No, there's no changes to the agenda tonight.
Okay. We have a few presentations, so I'll come down first. Could I have Luann Arredondo and Lester Lefroy please come forward? Nice to meet you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored tonight. We have two volunteers in our community that recently received awards at the West Covina Beautiful birthday celebration, and so we're going to recognize them here tonight. Volunteerism in West Covina is something that a lot of people do, and these two rose to the top. So I'll start with Luann. Luann Arredondo is our Recreation Services Volunteer of the Year. As president of the West Covina Sunrise Rotary, Luann has taken an active role to better our community. During her tenure this past year, Luann has established several community partnerships to provide a variety of services and programs in West Covina. West Covina Sunrise Rotary is the city's West Covina's first organization to adopt a park in West Covina. This means that volunteers under Luann's supervision will be helping to beautify Del Norte Park a couple of times a month. Through her personal relationships, Luann has been able to get donations to help with this project, but also to create unique fundraising opportunities in West Covina, including a music CD that is being sold to benefit local charities. Luann has also coordinated with Fairfield Marriott of West Covina a donation of bedding, towels, and other supplies for local veterans programs and shelters. One of Luann's passions is to assist the youth of West Covina. Luann was a supporter at the 2013 Red Ribbon Rally at West Covina High School. She works to find volunteer opportunities and fundraising projects for the Interact Club at Edgewood Middle and High School, and is an advocate for the West Covina Youth Council. Luann is not the type of individual that seeks accolades for her service, but many individuals have been touched by her generosity and hundreds of hours given to make West Covina such a wonderful community. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Luann Arredondo, our Recreation Services Volunteer of the Year. Congratulations.
I just want to say thank you for this award. It's actually a real honor to be standing here. There's so many volunteers in this city and so many wonderful things going on in this city. So I accept this, and it really should say all volunteers in West Covina. So thank you.
Thank you. You want to get a group picture or individual? Thank you. Okay, Les. Les Lefroy, and I've known Les for probably a couple years, maybe longer, I don't know. One of the great things, and let me just give you a prelude on this, one of the great things about West Covina is you start out as a kid and you play Little League, then you go into high school ball and you usually play adult softball. And then when you get to be 55, you think, well, what is there to do? And all of a sudden, lo and behold, there's a program that was started in the early 90s by some men called Jack Kelly and Jim Shade, and it's a senior citizen softball program. Well, there's always been a leader of that program, and so this year's Community Services Volunteer of the Year is Lester Lefroy, and it's an honor for me to present this award to Les tonight, and I'm going to read a little bit about it, but essentially, Les is the guy that provides services to a lot of gentlemen that like to play softball, and other services too, as you'll hear. This year's West Covina Community Services Volunteer of the Year is a quiet, unassuming man who, through his leadership and caring spirit, spreads joy to many people. Les is the leader of the West Covina Senior Softball Program at Cameron Park. On any given Monday and Friday morning, about 60 seniors age 55 and over meet at the park and choose up teams for a friendly softball game. As the leader, Les makes sure the field is prepared, the teams are chosen, the special rules are understood, and the guys and girls have fun. Les follows in the footsteps of previous leaders of senior softball named Jack Kelly, Jim Shade, I think Matt Walters is in there too, who in the early 90s took senior softball in West Covina to another level. Today, because of these men and others, there are two separate senior leagues in West Covina with over 300 players enjoying the game of softball on a daily basis. The story could stop there, but that's not the whole story. You see, Les and the guys know there is a lot more to softball than just hitting, running, and catching. The interaction on the softball field has led to friendships, social events, and a sense of family. Before every game, Les calls the guys together and gives them updates on events. At Christmas, there was a toy drive for children, then a clothing drive for the homeless, then 2 Christmas luncheons to share seasonal food and stories. He also organizes a barbecue a few times a year so everyone can socialize and talk off the field. When someone is in need or a relative dies, he lets everyone know and a card is circulated and action is taken. Les makes the group feel like a family. Les will be the first to tell you his reward for being the leader is his joy of baseball and the camaraderie of the guys, but his recognition tonight is well overdue and one of the great stories to be told in West Covina. Ladies and gentlemen, I present our community services volunteer, Les Lefroy.
I humbly accept this on behalf of West Covina Senior Softball. I just want to say thank you to Mayor Herford, because it was he that recommended me for this award. And also, he's contributed financially to our group. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Les. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. This is not an advertisement. Just one other thing. Mayor Herford has also joined our group, so you should come down and see him play. He has game, as they say on the field. He has game.
Yeah, thank you both. About about 6 game out, I took a softball off the chin playing third base, and you may remember I had to turn sideways for the group picture last time. So the seniors can hit the ball, let me tell you that. So, okay, next up, this next item was brought to us by Councilmember Toma, and I think it's a great honor that we bestow on some individuals here to recognize them. I've got this. Could I have Edgewood High School teacher Craig Michael please come forward? Craig is a teacher at Edgewood High School and is the head of the decathlon team there at the school, and he's going to introduce the students. But these young men and women here, individuals that represented Edgewood in a LA County decathlon program, finished in first place in their division. And I did a little research on the internet, and there's one individual with the last name Lynn. I'm not sure if it's Jeremy or Jason, but boy, he was #1 in music, and that's quite an honor. So we really appreciate you coming down, and I know James wants to say a few words. So if you bring them all up, and we'll have Councilmember Toma say a few words.
So he's not here tonight, but Ricky Lies. Alexis May Godina. Dominique Uy. Darren Lamb. Anali Torres. And that's our JV team, and now this is our varsity team. Maxwell Cerrone. And they're wearing the medals that they won at the competition. You can hear. Nico Campos. Nicholas. And Alan Aguirre. Eric Lamb. Daniel Wynn. Gabriel Rodriguez. This is our team captain, Eric Fan. Russell Fahayan. And this student was our high scorer, and he's only a freshman, Benjamin Lin. And then we have a number of coaches that help out with this endeavor. Couldn't do it alone. It's Katie Burnett. These are all teachers at Edgewood High School. And Joel Lovato. That's it.
Congratulations, Craig. Good job. Okay, if we could slide in and we'll take a group picture. And James, you want to come down? Where's James? Yeah, come on down. He's actually in the mix. Might need to
Come over here.
stack it a little bit.
Or no?
Stand up front there. Good right there. Teachers, can you come over this way a little bit? There's a couple people want to get down underneath. Okay. Okay, we're going to move that trophy over here. A couple of you are going to move over to here. We're going to really tighten it up like you guys really like each other here. Make sure you have it facing us. That'd be cool. Okay, you're going to step forward. You're going to get next to this gentleman here. You're going to get behind him. Okay? Yeah, guess what? Oh, boy. Shift that. Now, everybody's on their knees. Everybody shift this way. Faster. Okay, hold on. Okay. You see, you don't move. Everybody keep moving forward. Okay, everybody start moving this way. You're going to turn sideways this way. Tomer, you're going to step forward. Please. Corey, you got to help me. Turn forward, sir. Yeah, you already have this. Move in closer to him. Okay, turn your shoulder this way. Just show the other shoulder. Yes, sir. Come out this way. Step back. Turn towards him. Move up. Yes. Think about the worst thing. Just one sec.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Herford. I just wanted to say that briefly, when I found out that West Covina School had performed so well by taking first in the Super Quiz, I was incredibly happy about it because I know how hard it is. LA County is a gigantic county, and having done academic decathlon myself when I was in high school, it takes thousands of hours. I mean, there's so much preparation that goes into it. What I also like about the academic decathlon is it doesn't just take the 4.0 students, it actually rewards other students. So it takes a range of students and puts them into different categories so that people who sometimes don't otherwise excel in class can actually excel in an academic pursuit. There's a lot of camaraderie, team spirit, and the schools give a lot of recognition to the academic decathlon team just like they would to one of the sports teams. So it's a really fun event, and it's really an incredible achievement. So congratulations to all of you.
Okay, thank you all. And one final word, Councilmember Spence and I both went to Edgewood, so go Trojans. Or it's not Trojans anymore. Yeah. That's good. Okay, that was great. Okay, we'll wait just a sec till the students depart. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we move on to our agenda for tonight. The first item on the agenda is oral communications. If you aren't familiar with our process here, we just have you fill out a yellow card so that we have some order of speakers here. First speaker tonight will be Forrest Wilkins.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and audience that's here. First item I'd like to discuss is item number 14, CCW. I'll just touch on it lightly. It was about 3 years ago that the City Council at that time outlawed retired law enforcement personnel to carry their weapon here in the City Council chambers. I have some personal opinions why that was passed, but at that time there were members of the audience. There was a federal retired law enforcement agency that was here. There was 3 or 4, and even the chief of police at the time advised the council that probably wasn't a good thing to do. And if the other city council people like my personal opinion on it, which is a personal opinion, be more than happy to call me and I'll tell you further information on my opinion. The next item is, what is that, number 16, Mayor? Campaign contributions. July 1st, 2009 through September 24th, 2011, a total of about $50,230 was given to West Covina City Council candidates, to 1 current City Council member and 4 prior City Council members by associated companies of Athens Trash Group. That is reason enough to look at and change how contributions are given to individuals running for West Covina City Council. Their contributions range from $990 to $1,000 to each candidate for each business enterprise. All businesses were connected to Athens. Here are some of the businesses named, all having the same post office box in the City of Industry. Athens Services, Archelian Real Estate LLC, Archelian Salt Lake Avenue Real Estate LLC, Archelian Sun Valley Real Estate LLC, Archelian Selmar Real Estate LLC, Athens Exports Incorporated, Jack Archelian Family, Legacy Properties Holding Vincent Avenue LLC, Legacy Property Holding LLC, and there's a few more, but that illustrates the point. And I'll just point out that it was back in 1989 that the Athens company was fined $500,000 for price fixing. That's quite a history for a company doing business with West Covina. But anyway, that $50,000 was just here in West Covina. We could only imagine how much money they gave to other city council people that they do business with. You combine all those $50,000 donations, if they eliminated that, we'd probably reduce our trash rate. Anyway, that's my opinion about Athens.
Thank you. Shirley Buchanan.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. West Covina Improvement Association at their February board meeting voted to nominate Carolyn Arndt for the 2014 Women of Achievement Award that Senator Hernandez was sending out into the public. Today we received an email that she has been selected to receive the Community Service Award, and there's going to be a luncheon on March 14th at the Baldwin Park Women's Club. It's going to start at 2:30. Registration is at 1:30. I'm drawing a blank for a minute. Have patience. I will hope that there will be a member of the City Council in attendance at that luncheon. Or I don't know if it's a luncheon or not. It's just a gathering, I believe. And after that, she be put on the city's website that she did receive this award. Appreciate that. The second item is I have a copy of the lawsuit that was, the opinion was passed down by a judge in the Supreme Court of the state of California about the $12.2 million. I use that as an identifier because to go into anything else, we all know it as the $12.2 million, where the city has had several lawsuits and appeals against the Department of Finance trying to keep that money in the city. It would be a wonderful thing if we could keep it, but has been identified that it is not a recognizable obligation. So now that this court decision has been handed down, please stop appealing. I think we've had at least 2 appeals, if not more. And as a result, I think that it's time for the city to get in touch with the Tribune and lay this all out so that the people in the city of West Covina know what's happened to that $12.2 million. Thank you.
Thank you. James Grivich.
I actually want to talk about the last council meeting. I didn't talk at the meeting because at the time I didn't realize that there was a real issue, but now after doing some research, I think there is an issue and I wanted to bring it to your attention. What got me going on the research was the realization that you had decided to adopt your goals and objectives, but you haven't done so yet. But at the same time, that there was another agenda item where you were going to be submitting for a grant to develop your general plan under the label of environmental sustainability. And I said, wait a second, shouldn't you be setting your goals and objectives first before you decide you want a general plan that's environmentally sustainable? Why? Because that phrase has real meaning in terms of what it means for the city of West Covina. And I'm just going to talk about one element, but there's a lot of elements. The element that I'm going to focus on is if you want an environmentally sustainable general plan, you have to commit yourself to have high-density, mixed-use development. That kind of development will change the character of West Covina dramatically. West Covina currently is a suburban community, lots of grass and trees. High-density, mixed-use means urban, not suburban. It means concrete, not grass and trees. It means congestion, not space. That's a huge transformation of a community. I have a problem with the phrase environmental sustainability because the whole idea of a urban city being the result of that is kind of like George Orwell's 1984 where he talked about doublespeak. It really means the opposite of what it says. How can you have a good environment if you're converting everything to urban concrete? It just doesn't make any sense. And of course, for the implications for the citizens of West Covina, we didn't move here because we wanted to live in the center of the city. We moved here because we wanted to live in a suburban community. I really think you need to worry about your goals first before you worry about this general plan and what you want for this city. The other thing is that I wanted to emphasize this with something that's also already happened. You recently went over some zoning changes for some development going on in our community. Specifically, roughly 500 new housing units are going to be developed in the area south of the freeway near Vincent Avenue. Those 500 new housing units are going to produce approximately, and this is a guess off the top of my head, approximately 1,000 additional vehicles every day on Vincent Avenue south of the freeway. If you've ever driven through that particular intersection, you will, especially at places like Christmas time, it is enormously congested, and we've just decided to add another 1,000 vehicles a day to that street. And now we're talking about high density, mixed use, more of it, adding more and more traffic. And I'm just talking about one aspect of it. There's a lot more. I would seriously recommend that you take the time and trouble to research what all of this means before we go down this path at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Virgilio Benitez.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm here tonight because I have an issue. I live in a shadow of Gemini, and we have an issue with the fence lately because toppled down during the strong wind and bad weather we have. And before, this is the first time it had happened before. And then if I call the city of West Covina, they come out and fix it for free. But now I don't see them doing that anymore. I want to know why. A couple of, I have some pictures in here if you don't mind looking at it. It's 2 houses is down with fences. And then this is my house. I'm on the corner. This is the pathway right here, and this is the pathway too. So usually all those houses that's by the pathway, when the fence breaks down to strong wind or whatever, they come out and fix it. But now I don't see them coming out and fix it. That's why I have to come here and find out what's the issue.
Mr. Benitez, if you could, or one of our staff actually will give you a card, and then they'll be in touch with you to find out if the fence is on our property, your property, or how. Yeah. If we fixed it in the past, we're probably going to fix it again.
It's on a pathway of my property.
Yeah, I think it's probably on our property, but our Public Works Director will be happy to discuss the issue with you. Okay.
Here's this card right here, Mr. Yahtzee.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying maybe he could give the information to the Public Works guy right now, too, so that he can...
Absolutely. So. Okay, next speaker is Royal Brown.
Royal Brown, Aroma Drive, West Covina. I noticed this morning at the old Clippinger Chrysler dealership at the southeast corner of Azusa and Workman, a new sign went up. Something about Premier Jeep. I don't know what's going on, because the Clippinger sign is still posted. So is there going to be a shared dealership something way? Don't know what's going on at all. And there's been nothing in the press or something, nothing from our legal department about the lawsuits or what's going on. So who's this new Premier Jeep dealership or something? It's got 2 or 3 signs on the property now. So I think the public needs to hear from the city that has been having lawsuits against Ziad for a long time, what's been worked out. The public needs to know. There's also an increasing problem in graffiti in West Covina. Our neighborhood has been, along Aroma, has been relatively quiet of graffiti for a number of years, but we're back with graffiti. There's a gang group, I guess, they signed themselves AHC. They're writing on fences and stuff, and walls. So I know our condo has hired people to clean it up already inside of our development, but it's on the outside, elsewhere, on empty buildings in the neighborhood. things are going on. So we need to re-emphasize graffiti, especially along Aroma Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Hunter?
Good evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of Walter Thurman III, who is a West Covina High School graduate of 2005, CIF champion player, CIF Player of the Year, who recently participated in the Super Bowl about a month ago for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm here to try to figure out a way to get a billboard that recognizes Walter Thurman that says, "Congratulations. The city of West Covina sees you, acknowledges you, and appreciates what you coming out of this area." And it's not often that any city gets a professional championship player or athlete that was born and raised, attended one of the local high schools in the area. And so that's why I'm here, is to figure out a way. Is there a possibility to get a temporary billboard, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something along those lines, in the city of West Covina?
Okay, thank you. I think we can put it on our webpage for sure. I didn't know Walter was in the Super Bowl, but that's great news, yeah.
I'd love for him to be here, too, and give him
Yeah.
a certificate.
Well, we'll explore different things we can do. We don't really per se have billboards in the city. We don't allow them, but there is other recognition methods. So thank you for coming down. Appreciate that. Melissa Casano.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and audience. My name is Melissa Cozono, and I'm the Programs Associate at the East San Gabriel Valley Japanese Community Center. I'm here on behalf of Pearl Omiya, our Executive Director, to request a waiver of the temporary use and fire permit fees for the West Covina Cherry Blossom Festival on Saturday, March 29th. This year, the Cherry Blossom Festival has moved locations from the ESGV JCC to the South Hills Plaza. With this new location, there have been some added costs. A waiver of the permit fees will help to offset some of the expenses for this festival. The West Covina Cherry Blossom Festival has been a joint partnership with the City of West Covina for the past 12 years to showcase and to promote the Japanese culture through cultural performances and demonstrations. The funds raised during the Cherry Blossom Festival go to the ESGV JCC's various programs, such as the Student Exchange Program. The Student Exchange Program provides students a cultural exchange between the City of West Covina and its sister city of Otawara, Japan. It also gives students the opportunity to learn and appreciate the Japanese culture firsthand. We truly appreciate your continued support of the East San Gabriel Valley Japanese Community Center, and we hope you will consider our request, and thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Arndt.
My name is Carolyn Arndt, and I have chosen tonight to speak about the need to replace Arnold Alvarez Glassman as our city attorney. I did some research. The city attorney is the legal advisor to the city and its bodies. That person drafts all ordinances and legal documents, attends all legal proceedings, defends all lawsuits, approves all bonds and contracts, and investigates and enforces the charter, ordinances, and applicable laws. Now, the city attorney must take a proactive approach to their advisory function by sensitizing the city management on how to avoid litigation. The city attorney should bring people together and engender confidence in his or her legal analysis and opinion. I see nothing there that fits our attorney. I have known him and worked around him, against him, for 2 years. It hasn't been a rape of the finances of this city. We should never, ever have had to go to the whole scenario of suing our city as residents here, having no voice whatsoever in the selling of city council land and a commercial development. It should never, ever have happened. And it goes on and on and on. And then the developer is able, because she lost also, to sue the city, and she makes a bundle, and the taxpayers are paying that. Now, our attorney chose to work with us pro bono. He knew this was a whistleblower case. He recognized immediately the flaws in the litigation. When they went to court to settle on how much billable hour he was to receive, do you know that our attorney argued with the judge, and the judge raised it $25 additional billable hour? Now, if that's not stupid lawyering, I'd like to know where you go to find it. I think we've had enough. And I think there have to be people out there who know what they're doing. Mr. Glassman was in court in Santa Monica for maybe an hour and a half. Steve, you were there in the morning. By afternoon, you were gone. You could see the handwriting on the wall.
I stayed the whole day.
You didn't stay. You were out in the hallway.
I stayed
when
all
we
day.
left, you were out.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember. We had 23 people there. We were there in force to see this thing through. It's time to pull the plug and get on with running a city lawfully. Okay, now the next thing is an invitation, and an invitation to everybody in this room. We need to have general planning. That's what we're going to have. We're going to have a, wait till I find my paperwork. We are going to have on Wednesday evening, March the 19th, at the Courtyard by Marriott, located at 635 Baldwin Park. Well, you know what that is, 14635 Baldwin Park Town Center. We're going to have 101 general plan. Nobody in this room has ever done one. It's been 30 years since this city had one. So there's nobody here who knows anything about it. We can address this gentleman's issues, but we will learn. Drexel Smith has worked on several of them. He helped with the one in Walnut. He did one with the county, and he has been a hired consultant across the country. He has agreed to be our moderator. We want city council there, we want staff there, and we want our citizens there, because it's going to be a long, slow process of finding the right mix to take care of traffic, to take care of housing, to help our businesses, to take care of our homeowners. But it can be done, and we have to do it, and we all have to work together.
Excuse me, Ms. Mayor, Speaker seated there 5 minutes.
I think my time is up.
Thank you.
But thank you. That's my sermon for the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris P. Alturas.
Hello, good evening, Mayor. I think you still recognize me. 10 years ago, I was like them, as Waste Management Commissioner, and I was appointed by Mr. Steve Herford. And also, I know Chang. The reason why I'm here, because I just arrived a week ago from the Philippines, I've been there, stayed there for almost 2 years. I have my early retirement in 2010. Before I left here in 2004, I moved my residency in Baldwin Park. So being a practitioner, civil engineer, I did a lot of improvement there in Baldwin Park, like development of some. Now I went back to the Philippines, and I enjoy my life there, as being a retiree. And I would like to establish, come here to have a sister city where I live, I live in the province of Bohol, where you have heard that big earthquake it was there at 7.2. I experienced that earthquake, and in just a few weeks we experienced bad times because of the physical damage there. All the old church, some broken down, and but it was not economically disadvantaged for us in the province of Bohol. But during the typhoon Yolanda, we call it Yolanda in the Philippines, Leyte was being almost wiped up, at the Tacloban city. And that's where our source of our electricity there. So there was a bad times in our province of Bohol. The province of Bohol is in the central Visayas. The northern part is Luzon, and the southern part is Mindanao, And the central Visayas right there in the middle. On the central Visayas, we have the province of Bohol right there at the center, It's just like LA County is a circle. And we have only one city there, city of Tagbilaran. And we have a new mayor there, and I talked to them that maybe I'm going back to West Covina because my permanent address now is my son right there at southwest of Marine, Per Group and Sunset. I used to live in Cabana, Steve, and Corey also knows. And that's why the reason here, if there's some possibility that we could establish a sisterhood city between Tagbilaran City and West Covina. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Chris. Next speaker, Angie Gillingham.
Hello. Hi, I'm here on item number 14. I am appealing to the council to not accept or make any changes on the current status on gun permits within our city. Currently, the state attorney, Kamala Harris, is appealing this, and I believe all the judges within the state will hear this appeal. The requirements of this type of permit ask that applicants show real danger and not just simple self-defense. I hope that the councilman that put this on the agenda does not feel that there's real danger within our city. In my part of the city, known as the B2 area to the policemen of West Covina, there are currently 2 policemen per a 12-hour shift that covers a 10-mile radius. Our population is growing, but our infrastructure is not. With fewer policemen on the street, does this make sense? We've already seen in the past several months incidents with people carrying concealed weapons in other states, and how that has turned out, and how the courts are polluted with these type of cases. I am not against residents owning guns in their homes, just not on oneself. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Karen Nutt.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, audience. My name is Karen Nutt, Executive Director and co-founder of Parents Place Family Resource and Empowerment Center. I'm here in regards to the consent agenda item number 4 of the temporary use permit, fire permit, and park fees to be waived for our 22nd Annual Information Fair and Festival. We have been doing our festival for 22 years. For the last 20 years, we have used Cortez Park. Mayor Pro Tem Sykes was there last year, and he saw that we had close to 3,000 members of our community attend our fair. Our fair is designed to help families that have children with special needs by providing a resource fair, as well as providing a festival so that they can come and enjoy the day with their children in a non-threatening environment that is warm and friendly to persons with disabilities. We welcome all of you to attend. It's a wonderful event. Mayor Pro Tem really enjoyed himself last year, and he saw firsthand the entertainment, the camaraderie among the parents, as well as the children enjoying themselves for the day. Thank you.
Thank you. John Solis.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm here to address 3 agenda items, and I'll address them briefly. The first one is agenda item number 13, which is the fiscal year 2013-14 mid-year budget review. I, as well as Shirley Buchanan, was made aware that the California courts recently denied $11,578,351 as an enforceable obligation of the successor agency. Up to now, we've been addressing this as $12.2 million. Now, I hear that we're going to appeal this decision. Gosh, here we go again. But in reviewing the budget, I couldn't find anywhere where this $12.2 million has been set aside as a reserve. I looked for it and I couldn't find it. So, Mr. Chung, if you could somehow tell me where I can find that. And also, if we lose the appeal, I've been made aware that the state could possibly take the property tax revenue to get their money, or at least portions of that. So there has to be an end to this sometime. So my question is, where is it? I couldn't find a reserve of $12.2 million. The second agenda item is the city attorney RFP. Before I start my comments, I'd like to preface my comments by saying, Mr. Alvarez-Glassman, this is not personal, it's business. When I first came across this item, I thought about the term change. So I kind of looked up some quotations that I thought would be relevant to this RFP in selecting the new city attorney, if you should go that way. And again, the term is change. They say that time changes things, but one actually has to change them ourselves. Mr. Alvarez-Glassman has been our city attorney since July 2000. That's going to be 14 years. He's given service to our city. There's been some hiccups. No one is perfect, but change does come. Change is the constant, the signal for rebirth. Change has a considerable psychological impact on the human mind. To the fearful, it is threatening because it means that things may get worse. To the hopeful, it is encouraging because things may get better. To the confident, it is inspiring because the challenge exists to make things better. He who rejects change is the architect of decay. The only human institution that rejects changes is the cemetery. Change is the motivator for progress. Change isn't good or bad. It's just a way of things. Nothing stays the same. Therefore, City Council, the citizens of West Covina are asking for change in regards to our city attorney. My last agenda item that I'd like to address is agenda item number 16, which is the review of the West Covina Municipal Codes, sections 2-400 to 2-405. If, in fact, the RFP for the services of a new city attorney is authorized by you, the City Council, wouldn't it be prudent to involve the new city attorney in this review process? There certainly isn't any hurry to review these codes at this time. Secondly, I would suggest that a panel of West Covina citizens composed of prior City Council members such as Dr. Forrest Tennant, Ben Wong, Mike Miller, be convened to advise and assist you in the review of these municipal codes. Their experience and insight would be invaluable. Thank you for your insight and your attention.
Lloyd Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor Herford, council members. First, I still haven't received the information I asked for at the last council meeting that Mayor Herford told the city attorney to get for me. Now tonight, I am requesting a copy of the contract with Attorney Albert Glassman in the city of West Covina, and a copy of the contract between Squire Sanders and the city of West Covina, since these are public records. On Council Members Tomer's item number 15, I hope we go forward with this item. This is way overdue for new legal services for our city. You know, I remember talking with Council Members Tomer and Warshaw while they were running for council. At that time, we discussed our city services, for legal services, and we agreed that if we're going to make a change, we need to make a complete change. So I'm hoping that you still believe in that we do make that change with our new legal services. It's way past due. And I would hope that the rest of the council agrees that and come to the conclusion we are in desperate need of new legal services. And on Council Member Warshaw's item number 16, campaign reform, this is way overdue. We have seen how loopholes can be used in our city's campaign laws, and it's time to close them. I would hope this council holds off on this item number 16, campaign reform, until we have a new city attorney. We shouldn't accept the conclusions of this city attorney's opinions on what is best for our city. We need a neutral party to write up our city's campaign reform, not someone that is beholden to the city. I must keep reminding this council the thousands and thousands of our tax dollars you are throwing away on this unwanted lawsuit against the car dealerships. It has to come to an end. These thousands and thousands of our tax dollars which you are spending will never be recovered. The responsibility lies on the backs of our new council. You have the choice. You can either end this lawsuit or keep throwing the good money after bad. It's your choice. You are the ones that will have to answer to the residents of West Covina for wasting our tax dollars and accomplishing what? The last thing is, with the city losing the latest lawsuit against the state, how can we afford to keep throwing money away on the car dealership's lawsuit? I hope you are considering how you are going to pay for services when we have to give the $12.2 million to the state. And by the way, do we even have the $12.2 million? If we had to give the $12.2 million today, we couldn't pay for our police and fire services. Now, if you say I'm wrong, I would like to have the proof in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen Rosati.
Good evening, Mayor Herford and council members. Colleen Rosati, President of West Covina Beautiful. I just wanted to take a moment and thank all of you that attended the 91st birthday celebration that West Covina Beautiful hosted a couple Wednesdays ago. It was a sold-out event, and I think everybody had a good time, and it was long overdue. I saw a lot of camaraderie, a lot of camaraderie. People hadn't seen folks in a long time, and I just think it was well received. So thank you, department heads, for coming, and congratulations again to Luann and Les for Volunteer of the Year. Our awards were given for beautification to Foothill Transit, a business beautification award, Summer Place Village for their residential, and Art and Public Places was at Fairfield Marriott. So again, thank you. I hope you continue to support our events that we do. We've got a garden walk and Art and Public Places coming up, Arbor Day, and our annual fashion show. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Elsie Messman.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, Council, staff, and everyone here tonight. My name is Elsie Messman, a resident of West Covina. I've been coming to council meetings off and on since 2006. At that time, we were not in financial trouble and had a good reserve. Looking back the last few years, I see all these people jumping ship. Why? Frank Wills, the police chief, Paul Salega, the fire chief, Sherry Lane, councilwoman, Shelley Sanderson, councilwoman, Mike Toohey, councilman, Dennis Swink, city controller, Andrew Pasmat, city manager, Tom Bachman, assistant city manager, Michelle McNeil, community service director, and yes, Mayor Herford, you missed the boat in November. The above people saw something. Could it be that all our reserves have been spent and the city can barely fund normal services such as the police, fire, staff, and now only open 4 days a week? So these are tough times. Our new council will have to make some tough decisions. Attorney fees seem to be way out of control. As you just heard, we lost the 12.2, I guess it's 11 something, lawsuit with the state of California. And I think this, if we appeal it, this is going to be another loss for the city. The city lost the lawsuit at the Civic Center that should have been never started. The city settled the lawsuit with CGM for $900,000. The city won a lawsuit from Chris Chung, but the city ended up paying $936,000 anyway. And another employee lawsuit, we won, the city, but the taxpayers again paid $193,000. So whether you win or lose, the city pays. The lawsuit's still pending since 2006 with El Hassan, with attorney fees over $10 million since it started, and no end in sight. City has gained nothing except special counsel. Lawsuits with Foxdale also is still pending. Who approved Squire Sanders, an international law firm, to represent us? This lawsuit made contributions in the last election to Sotelo, McIntyre, Armburst, and even you, Mayor Herford. Who knows how many more lawsuits there are, as transparency is at a minimal at best. The past city council has been supported by big business, unions, and contractors, and not always for the best interest of the people. No one can say that this city has been well managed and well run when you go through over $50 million in reserve. So now is the time for this council to make some serious changes and start listening to the residents. And also think about hiring an experienced city manager, not a friend of the prior council, since the 90 days have passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Kaufman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff, and citizens. On March 15th, a week from Saturday, the San Gabriel Valley Progressives will be presenting our next healthcare reform forum and workshop that is going to be held at Covina United Methodist Church. We are a West Covina-based organization. Our meetings are in West Covina, and most of our members are West Covina residents, but we're doing this in conjunction with Covina Methodist Church, and that's the location where the forum will be. It'll be beginning at 11 o'clock the rest of the afternoon on the 15th at the church at 437 West San Bernardino Road. Over the past 3-4 years, we've put on several healthcare reform forums throughout the San Gabriel Valley and points east, and our focus has always been on the need for providing information about true healthcare reform, which in our opinion, our minds, and the research that we've done is a true single-payer universal healthcare system. However, at this time, with the need for citizens to be informed about the Affordable Care Act, especially with the March 31st deadline coming up, the people at the Covina United Methodist Church wanted information on the Affordable Care Act. So our focus that morning, March 15th, will be in the morning on the Affordable Care Act. We'll have some great speakers well informed on all the intricacies of the Affordable Care Act. We'll have people from Covered California present who will be able to sign up people for coverage under Covered California. California. And then after a break for refreshments in the afternoon, we'll have a short documentary and additional speakers on the need for even further reform, which would be the single-payer universal health care system. We invite all city personnel and city residents to attend on March 15th. I left some flyers out front with all the details, and I think you have those as well. It'll be a very informative event in both areas of the Affordable Care Act and what we need to do in the future to improve our healthcare system throughout the state and throughout the country even further. I'd also like to speak about agenda item 14, which has been mentioned by a couple other speakers already. A few weeks ago, Councilmember Spence asked that a report be done detailing the procedure that the city follows in issuing concealed weapon permits. That report has now been prepared and will be before the council tonight, and the question remains, what will the council do in the future with that information? As has been mentioned, there's been a great change in the law in this regard just in the last 2 weeks. On February 13th, the Federal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals issued their opinion in the case of Peruta and National Rifle and Pistol Foundation versus the County of San Diego, in which they held that a governmental agency could not impose a good cause requirement in order to issue concealed weapons permits, and that any able-bodied citizen who was not a criminal or had a mental problem would be entitled to receive a concealed weapons permit. In response, various local governments around the state have done one of two things. Some have said that they will take no further action until the opinion and decision is final, and others have decided to change their laws dramatically and begin issuing permits to basically anyone who asks for one. That's happening in Orange County, and it's causing them considerable problems. They're now in the process of rehiring retired personnel in order to meet the incredible number of permit requests that they've faced in only the last 2 weeks. The decision is being appealed by the California Attorney General's office, and the decision itself was a 2-to-1 decision rendered by 2 judges in the majority of that 3-judge panel who are not really representative of the entire Ninth Circuit. The appeal of the decision will be before the entire Ninth Circuit, and it is very reasonable to believe that there may well be a contrary opinion reached on the appeal. Similar cases have been decided around the country, and almost every one of them has upheld a good cause requirement. So it is far from settled law, and I would urge the council not to take any action until the issue has been settled and the appeal is heard, and we have a stronger determination as to what the law is concerning the granting of concealed weapon permits. As long as I have one more minute, I'd like to move on to one final point that's been before the council before. As a member of the Communities and Senior Services Capital Improvement Subcommittee, a few weeks ago we approved a plan for a new playground at Walmerado Park beginning March 7th, this Friday, through a national program that Macy's has. Anyone who goes into the local West Covina Macy's and makes a donation towards the new playground at the park, Macy's will match every donation dollar for dollar up to a total of $250,000. So I'd urge everyone who shops at Macy's and anyone who has children in West Covina, everyone who goes to Walmerado Park to go into Macy's, make whatever contribution that you can, and Macy's will match that dollar for dollar so we can build a new playground at the park. Thank you.
Thank you. John Shoemaker?
I know tonight people have talked about the $12.2 million. Maybe there's some confusion. That might be the amount of money that we're going to end up paying our attorneys to save us the 11.5 or whatever it happens to be. One of the questions I have on that is people keep talking about it's in the reserves, it's this or that. I hope it is a very simple question. Could the city of West Covina walk into a bank and withdraw the 12.2, the 11.5, 8.7, whatever it is, and hold it in their hand. And all the other business in the city would continue because it's been set aside. The city doesn't need it. Because as an accountant, there's a big difference between I'm reserving for it and I actually have it. So there's a fine line there. Oh, by the way, Edgewood High School is the Lions, but they do have UCLA's colors, don't they? Oh, they have the wrong one? Oh, sorry about that. Speaking of Edgewood, the nice thing about it is this is a school that was reopened in the city of West Covina during one of the big, great financial disasters for governmental agencies. While this body, the city of West Covina, was cutting police, cutting fire, cutting services, West Covina Unified, which Mr. Spence was a member of, opened schools, hired teachers, and increased programs. How'd that happen? One body in basically the same city is, blowing through money like, what was the old joke, like a drunk sailor, but that's an insult to drunk sailors, versus another one that was doing just the opposite, increasing reserves and being able to open and satisfy the people of our city a lot better. I agree with the people who talked about the campaign reform. I hope that there is public input, on those things, and that an independent attorney, would draw it up that isn't going to be beholden necessarily to anybody who would ever be on the city council in the future. That type of thing, because they're not going to be the city attorney or whatever the case may be. I was hoping, that we would get through the RFP fast. And one of the strategies I was thinking about is I have a family member who's a very successful attorney, and I asked how they, come up with new partners and things like that. Thinking this might be a way to find out how we can get a new city attorney faster. And the comment was that although they hire people from top law schools as new associates, from Yale and Harvard and things like that, almost no partners in this law firm were from Harvard or Yale. Because what they would do is, when they'd go into court, they'd find the attorney that kicked their butt, around the courthouse a couple times and go, we want you on our side. So I was thinking maybe we could find the attorneys that have basically taken the city to the cleaner, namely our city attorney, and say, we should hire one of them. But then it dawned on me the list is so long, it probably would make the process longer than shorter. The other thing that we need to talk about is we hear about when we ask how much money is going to be spent on lawsuits and things like that. We're told that gives away strategy. Well, strategy would be, and I completely understand the issue that there might be a novel way of looking at the law or an application or wanting to apply things that are different. And you don't want to give that away because you don't want the other side basically to be prepared for it along those things. But that's not equal to giving us a reason. Giving us a reason. And a reason could be very valid. We need to keep, say, the auto dealerships. Okay, that sounds, that somebody could come in and change it. Okay, that sounds reasonable. But then the question that comes up is, don't zoning laws do that? Don't zoning rules do the same thing? So if that's the reason, if there is, I don't know what the reasons are. I've heard a lot of different things, and I'm not going to say what those things are because nobody's confirmed or denied it. I might believe it or I might not. But that's what we need to, I hope all of you would release to the public are the reasons for it, so at least we can say, yeah, we know. Yeah, that makes sense. Is the reason for continuing the lawsuit for the $12 million is we don't have it? Well, that's a pretty good reason. So if you could let us know, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lola Finley.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for listening to me. I have a few questions about the agenda. One is just one explanation because I don't know the answer regarding the renewal of the citywide lighting, maintenance, district landscaping. Is this because we're getting a new budget and it's just something we do that's normally done? or is there new items being attached that weren't in last year's budget? Just want to get some clarification on that. And if this is just because we're getting a new budget, does this include the completing of the LED lights in the paseos, the energy efficient bulbs on the streets, that Edison street lights? Also, I was wondering if this includes funding to paint the city walls. Right now, our walls are, at least in my area, look like patchwork, and our little area as a community are going to work on that ourselves, but it would be great if the city can help a little in that area, just so we kind of look unified. We talked to the graffiti guy. We told him to paint all our walls Adobe, because apparently that's a paint that he has and that my neighbors thought looked good. So I want to see if that can be looked into. And also, I was wondering if the graffiti person, if in those fundings, we can get him a power washer. Our sidewalks are being painted versus taking the graffiti off, and certain walls that should be, I guess, for lack of better words, power washed off. They're just being painted. So not only do we have patchwork of walls, we also have our sidewalks that are all patched up that we need to address before it gets too bad. I don't want to feel like I live in, the inner city or by a freeway. Also, can you explain the block grant that's on the agenda? Is this for a current property, such as the Wicks, or is this something new? The gentleman that spoke, I can't recall his name, but the third gentleman that talked about the general plan, why the residents moved to West Covina. We're looking for suburbia, not an urban city. I know we have to, city manager said we need to have a certain kind of housing for a certain demographic, and I'm okay with that within reason and unless it's totally mandatory. So he spoke very articulate and explained it very clearly, and I hope you guys listen to his opinion, and thank you, whoever you are. Also, West Covina Discovery in the front page. This is a real big issue for me, and I don't even have kids. But anyways, West Covina Discovery in the front page showed that they were covering the Common Core, and it was going to be covered in Baldwin Park. Well, we have West Covina residents on my side, and there was nothing addressed. And I just happen to have a neighbor who's a teacher in Rowland Heights, and her son goes to school in the Rowland Heights School District, and she told me about it. And I would like, if the Discovery, if they're going to put that in for one area of West Covina, they should also include the Rowland School District that the other West Covina residents are attending when they have training regarding the school districts. They are having a meeting this Thursday regarding local control for the Rowland Heights School District. And it's so weird. My son didn't go to school in West Covina, so I don't know how the whole system works. I'm getting into education right now. But it would be nice if they're going to cover for this part of West Covina, also this part of West Covina, the information regarding the school will go down there. I'm actually going to try to get on that board for the planning for the school districts. But anyways, on March 6 p.m. At the Rowland Unified School District for West Covina residents who have children or just want to be informed, they are having a meeting regarding Common Core. Let me see, what else? I think that's it, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Steve Bennett.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, how you guys doing tonight?
Good.
I'm here tonight. I think I'm the low supporter of the Second Amendment rights tonight. I actually am pretty glad somebody brought up CCWs. I'm here tonight to support the idea of having our police chief issue those. I heard somebody else earlier that the meeting mentioned that West Covina is a safe community and there's no reason to have people with them. I agree. I don't need to carry a CCW in the city of West Covina because I feel perfectly safe. But unfortunately, I don't work in West Covina. I work in other cities, and it's a permit for all of the state of California. And I myself would love to be able to apply and just show self-defense. I work in some cities that, well, I won't name them, that probably aren't as nice as West Covina. And when I'm working in those cities late at night, it would be nice to be able to have the ability to do that. Being that I live in West Covina, the chief of police here in the city of West Covina would be the one to issue that, and I think that would be appropriate. I don't know what action you guys can take according to what's going to take place. I know that somebody spoke about the Peruta lawsuit. Currently, there was kind of a misspeak by that person. The State Attorney General did file a motion to take over the case because the San Diego Sheriff decided not to appeal it. And at this point, all they are is in a situation of reviewing those motions. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has agreed to listen to their request to take it over. But at this point, they haven't made any rulings. We're going to see where that goes. I hope they continue to upload it. I think that people should be allowed to carry a firearm if they are qualified, if they've passed certain classes, if they are a good standing citizen. I consider myself a very upstanding citizen. I have no desire to go out and be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I'm just looking to make sure that when I am somewhere that I can protect myself and also protect my family or friends. And I know there's people that are law enforcement on this council, and I'm sure they may have a different opinion, but when your life's in danger in seconds, police are minutes away. And it's just my belief. I believe that we should ask our police chief to do a shall issue city. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. That concludes oral communications. City manager, I know there was a couple items that people asked questions on. I think the item by Lola Finley will come up during the landscape lighting district.
Yes, so
We'll pull it, yeah. Mr. Johnson asked for a couple of contracts for attorneys and something from the last meeting. I'm not sure what, I can't remember exactly what that was. Do you remember that?
No, I don't, but I'll follow up on that and make sure he gets those contracts in. And I apologize to him if we failed to provide something from the last meeting, so I will follow up on that. There was questions with regards to, and this will go into more detail with the mid-year budget review about the $12.2 million, actually 11.5, and just want to explain the difference there. Was at first the Department of Finance indicated that the amount that we that they wanted back was 12.2, but they later on adjusted to it to be 11.5 based upon other credits. There's a question as far as whether we have that cash on hand in the bank and whether we can pull it out and continue operations. We do have that cash. It is set aside. It was set aside as part of the CAFR, which is the Comprehensive Annual Fiscal or Financial Report, which the auditors required us to set aside and show as a liability. And on page 2 of the staff report, it talks about a little bit under the general fund overview that the city was required to set aside the $12.2 million in a liability account for the potential payment to the state of California to address that question. And I'll have Nita McKay go into more detail in regards to that. And we'll go into more detail as far as what that means to us, but in general, that is the cash the city currently has. And if the state was to take that, then we would not have cash flow and cash reserves in order to pay for ongoing core services, and we would need to have to borrow funds in order to to pay for those services. Because if you don't have money, just like in your mortgage, if you don't have money in there that holds that you have money coming in, you can pay your mortgage and still have money coming in. Our revenues aren't steady where they come in on a monthly basis and are divided out equally. We get sales tax and property tax, sporadically throughout the year. So as a result, we don't have all that money all at once in order to pay for ongoing operations. So that's why we need the cash reserves to cover those periods in time. So let's see, there was some other questions.
I think most of the other ones were on the agenda. Some were just comments on the city attorney and then on the campaign finance laws. So those will be covered during the agenda item.
Correct.
Okay. Any comments, questions from the council? Councilmember Warshaw?
Yes. Mr. Brown asked about the Premier, the auto dealership at the old Clippinger. Premier has leased that property. They are opening up this week. They have put up temporary signs, and they will be coming to the city to do a remodel. That'll take a little bit of time, but we will have this week a new Chrysler Dodge dealership there.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll move on to the agenda then. First item on the agenda is our consent calendar.
Mayor?
Yes.
If we could pull
Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
8, please.
Pull item 8. Okay.
Can we also...
Any other items?
Can we pull 5 and 7 also, please?
5 and 7. Any other items? Okay, do we have a motion to approve all items but 5, 7, and 8?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Warshaw.
Second.
Second by Sykes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 5. Councilmember Toma.
So on this one, I note it's a resolution, and it's a letter of opposition to a resolution. So, I guess one of my problems is that, as the staff report says, this resolution does not have the force of law, and this thing could pass, I think, tomorrow and have no impact on the city whatsoever. I understand that if there was a bill that actually did, say, limit our ability to contract for certain services, then that would be a different story. If it were to say that we could not contract that out or privatize, then that would be something that would directly impact us. But I don't think this is the kind of thing that we should be spending staff time in addressing. The devil's in the details and these kinds of things. Raises certain issues about competitive bidding, transparency, accountability. Granted, it's very vague, so I just don't think that we should, if some bill follows up with this that actually does substantively affect our city, then I agree we should take a position. On this one, I don't see the need.
Okay, any other comments? Do we have a motion on this one? I'll make a motion to adopt. Do we have a second? Second by Spence. All those in favor say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, motion carries 3-2 with Warshaw, Hereford, and Spence in favor, and Toma and Sykes opposed. Okay, item 7. Councilmember Toma.
Yeah, this is more of a question for clarification. I believe I understand the staff report is helpful. I just want to make sure, because I think this is a very important fundraiser to find out what the city is doing to publicize this activity. I know that there was a report previously about it, but I'd like to read, if you could repeat what we're doing, because I think we have a limited amount of time and we want to maximize the amount of money that we get through this Macy's program, so it would be helpful, I think, people to understand what we're doing to help publicize this event.
Yeah, Chris, can I have you respond to that, please?
Absolutely, Mr. City Manager. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, thank you, Councilmember Toma, for bringing this to everyone's attention. First, let me preface my comments that we found out from Macy's today. We're supposed to keep the secret until tomorrow. So nobody knows that we're trying to raise these funds for our Walmart Park, even though we've been talking about it for well over a month right now. So it's kind of funny to hear that. Macy's actually will be unveiling tomorrow a campaign at their stores across the United States to fund park projects in 550 different communities across the United States. The members of Macy's over here in West Covina have selected Walmart Park as the recipient of those funds. So we're very grateful for them for selecting that park. What the City Council took action to do back in January is the construction of a brand new playground, a baseball-themed playground at Walmart Park. So since that time, city staff has been reaching out to other groups to try and seek funding, including here, what this staff report does is help secure a $125,000 grant from Los Angeles County for the new construction of the playground at Walmart Park. But yes, we are also doing a campaign for the Macy's fundraising activities. We kicked off that campaign a few weeks ago over at Walmart Park for the grand opening of West Covina Youth Pony Baseball. At that event, we had flyers that were passed out to all the recipients there. I would guess there was a few hundred people there in attendance, so we made sure that those flyers were going out to those families. As well as West Covina Youth Pony Baseball is helping us get the message out to the neighborhood and to those families to help try and encourage people to go to Macy's and make those donations. On the city's end, we will be issuing a press release tomorrow announcing this project and this program, as well as the intent to have these funds go towards the new playground at Walmart Park. The program will also be highlighted on our Twitter account, on the city's website. Letters of seeking donations for some of the major businesses in the community, as well as some of the vendors that provide service to the city, will be solicited in the next few days as well. These are all efforts that we're trying to do to get that message out there. And we also have been working with different nonprofit groups to get that message out there. I know we presented it at the Rotary and Kiwanis Club meetings that we've had previously. We reached out to the Interact kids over at Edgewood School last week when we had a meeting with them, and they're going to actually have a fundraising activity to help support the program. So there's a variety of different efforts going on in the community at this time.
And to just elaborate more, the other thing we can do, which I'll instruct my staff to do, is that we have the ability to place on reader boards public service announcements, and this is something that we can get up there just to make sure that everybody can see it.
Mayor? Councilmember Spence.
I have a question about this, but I have a more important question that trumps that, and that is, I can't remember what the distance is for the sphere of influence on projects that may be within a distance of someone's home for council members. Just because the corner of Walmart Auto Park, especially if you go as the crows flies, is kind of close. I mean, it's not close if you're walking, trust me, but it's close. But as the crow flies, if you go from the corner of Walmart Auto Park to my house, I don't remember what the distance is for that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the regulations are that if you own property within 500 feet of the boundaries of the affected property, then you should not participate unless the action will not impact positively or negatively the value of your property. The improvements to the park,
It wouldn't.
I guess the threshold question is,
well, the 500 feet, I think I'm fine. I couldn't remember what the feet was, and I was trying to, I think I'm okay because you have to cross Merced and then Merced Place, I should be okay.
just under 2 football fields. Just, if I'm doing the math
two
right, just
football
under 2
fields?
football, 300 feet for a football field?
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Sykes?
Well, I had a question. Since I think I'm okay then.
All right.
And that
Go
had
ahead.
to do with part of this resolution. The previous city council, they had dedicated all the park dedication fees of all the different development projects that had been approved to go towards the soccer complex. And this would change that, and it would devote a certain amount towards the Walmart Auto Park project. And my question on that is, at some point when we do our goals or something like that, I kind of have a problem going ahead and changing that for one park project that we have without looking at all our parks to see how we want to deal with park dedication fees and the soccer complex and the plans. You know, this council's really never reviewed the plans for the soccer complex. You know, I think we have to have that total discussion about our park dedication fees at some point to see exactly where we're at and what our goals and projects are.
I agree with you. I think you have to have that discussion. I don't think we said all park development fees were going towards the soccer field. I think we allocated a certain amount of money as it came in. So.
Well, that's what this says, though. That's what this said.
I don't remember.
That doesn't mean that's what you did. That's what it says.
Yeah. No, I think the discussion will be good during the goal setting as far as park development fees. I agree with you there. Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. I would just want to highlight the joint powers aspect of Gloria Molina's office, and they're doing something that they don't have to do, and I want to make sure that we thank them for assisting us, both the Supervisor Gloria Molina and her office. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Do we have a motion to approve?
A motion we approve.
Moved by Sykes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Toma. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0. Okay. Item 8, Public Works. I think we all wanted this pulled for a little bit of a staff report. Mr. Yahtzee?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Yes, this is basically the first step in doing the budget for these districts. This step is required by California law. There are a couple other districts, maintenance districts 1 and 2, which I believe the resident lives in maintenance district 2, and that will come under a little bit different process. But this covers the citywide district, which covers street light operations and maintenance, as well as maintenance of our city street trees. Then it also covers the 3 landscape maintenance districts, 4, 6, and 7. And those district boundaries are shown in the staff report, and it covers the maintenance of the landscape and the paseos and any walls and pathways within those districts. Tonight's staff report also lays out the steps for the adoption of the budget, which would be approval of a preliminary report and then a public hearing on each of these items. The date for the preliminary budget report for maintenance districts 4, 6, and 7 is April 15th, and for the citywide is May 6th, followed up by public hearings for the maintenance districts on June 3rd, and for the citywide on June 17th. At that time, it would be then expected to approve the budget. During the preliminary reports that are approved, at that time, staff would look at the revenues and available, and it would be recommending increases if available to those districts. And at that time, we also do look at and make recommendations for setting aside of funding for capital improvement projects that would include LED lighting, where feasible. Some of the districts don't have lighting or pathways, but where they do, LED lighting, pathway, concrete removal and repairs, as well as sometimes additional tree trimming or other capital improvements. So that would be presented at that time to the public and to the City Council April 15th and May 6th. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
Do we have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Thank you for that report, Director Shannon. Directing your attention to page 2, please, of the staff report here regarding MD4. We had a resident speak tonight and show photographs of walls that were down. And so can we explain, because these walls are bordered by city property, so can you expound on what this means in regards to the assessments collected are used to maintain landscape and irrigation, hardscape, e.g. sidewalks, walls, etc. So specifically, can we expound on that, please? Explain what that means.
Sure. Throughout the districts, there are many walls surrounding the homes and separating the homes from the paseos. There's also some retaining walls and other walls that are mostly concrete block located on the city properties. For the most parts, the paseos have been surveyed, and so it's pretty clear which fences and walls are on whose property. There in the past, I want to say decades ago, there was some past practice when there were claims made against the city for the irrigation that the city owns and maintains, or the landscaping on there damaging property fences. There were cases where the city repaired those fences. We've actually currently, and more recently than that, been advised that if there's damage to city or to privately owned fences, the city should not repair them, but they should be handled through a claims process. And that basically was the result of a lawsuit decades ago where the city was repairing a fence and someone's animal got loose, and it ended in some claims against the city where someone was bit. So we would need to go out. If there is damage to a wall or a fence, we'd need to look at the survey marks and determine basically who owns it. If the city owns it, we would maintain it and repair it. If it's owned by the private property owner, which most of the wood fences around the homes are, if they feel that the damage was due to the city or the city's maintenance of the adjacent properties, we would ask them to file a claim then with the city's risk management department.
Shannon, in respect to the photo that you received, are you able to indicate or whether it's city-owned property, whether it's city fence, and whether that can be corrected under the maintenance district?
My guess is it's not, but we would really normally always go out and look at the survey marks and try to make a determination that way.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Warshaw.
Just a couple of comments because Lola had asked. This is done yearly. It is a fee that is charged to everyone in those districts. So just remember, anything you ask for, you are paying for. So by the property owners, right? Right.
Okay, any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
So in order to file a claim, they simply need to contact you and your office?
Well, what I would do for the gentleman here is we would do the research and go out there and look at the properties and try to identify where the property lines are. And then if we did identify that they were privately owned, we would get him the forms or get them mailed to him, the proper forms.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, we have 3 resolutions for adoption here. Do we have a motion to adopt? I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Herford, second by Sykes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify, I believe there's 4 resolutions. Just want to...
Did I say 4?
I said 3. I just want to...
I'm sorry, 4, yeah. There's, let me restate my motion, and we'll take another vote. Motion to adopt the 4 resolutions. Mr. Sykes, did you second that?
Yes, I second.
Second by Sykes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we move on to a public hearing. Proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2013-14 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. This matter set for public hearing concerns proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2013-14 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. City Clerk, will you verify proper legal notice has been given?
Yes, that's verified.
This time I shall open the public hearing on the proposed amendments to fiscal year 2013-14 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. There will first be the presentation of the staff report, and then comments from the public. Mr. Chung, who will present the staff report?
Mr. Freeland will present the staff report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening we are actually going to have 2 Community Development Block Grant Program hearings, so I'm going to do my best to try and take each of them individually and hopefully not cause any confusion among here in the public. The first one is an amendment to the fiscal year 2013-2014 CDBG Action Plan. Annually, the City of West Covina develops a Community Development Block Grant Action Plan, which is a comprehensive one-year study that addresses the use of Community Development Block Grant funds provided by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The use of these funds are subject to HUD guidelines to meet the goals of providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income persons. Last May, the City Council adopted the fiscal year 2013-2014 CDBG Action Plan. Amendments that add, counsel, or substantially change the funding of an activity are required to be up for consideration by the City Council, and a public hearing is to be held after a 30-day public comment period. A notice of proposed amendments was published on January 31st, 2014. No public comments have been received. CDBG funds are used in West Covina to fund a variety of operations over at the Senior Center, over the Police Department with the Domestic Violence Victim Advocate. They also provide funding for various nonprofit service providers, for example, the Meals on Wheels program, the Senior Lunch program, as well as some of the local homeless shelters, as well as a variety of capital improvement projects that we do here in the city, whether it be at the Senior Center, through our streets programs to help remove barriers for those with disabilities, or at our local parks. The city currently has approximately $275,000 in unobligated community development block grant funds in its line of credit with HUD. Staff are proposing 2 amendments to add projects to the fiscal year 2014 action plan, which are estimated to cost approximately $95,000. City staff has identified these as community priorities. Additional projects will be identified as part of the 2014-2015 budget process. So, for example, in this year we had a little bit of monies left over, so those monies will be carried over and expended as part of next year's budget, as well as a new allotment of funding that we're expected to receive. The 2 proposed projects are described below. First, Del Norte Park improvements at a cost of approximately $65,000. Del Norte Park improvements will include the installation of additional picnic shelter and sidewalk improvements along the northwesternly border of the park. With the recent addition of the splash pad and dog park over at Del Norte Park, there's an increased demand for picnic shelters at Del Norte Park. The sidewalk improvements will complete a walking path around the park and allow greater access to the park for those with physical impairments. This proposal is consistent with the resident request at a public meeting that was held in the park in August 2011. That's the Del Norte Park improvements. The second improvement is the senior center fire alarm system of a cost of $30,000. Recently, the fire department and public works director inspected the fire alarm system at the senior center. Because of its age, replacement of the alarm system is recommended. According to the rules and regulations established by HUD, I want to make sure that people are clear that those funds are utilized for, as we described earlier, a variety of different projects and programs. However, if you're utilizing those funds for park improvements, they have to be in those census tract areas that have been identified by HUD. And the only two parks in our community that are qualified are Del Norte and Palmview parks. And so in recent years, we've utilized those CDBG funds at those two parks to do a lot of improvements of those facilities. So tonight, the city staff is recommending the City Council approve the proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2013-2014 CDBG action plan as is detailed in Table 1 of your staff report, and authorize appropriations necessary to implement these amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Any questions? Councilmember Spence.
I have a question in that. If Corey would let me leave it on the whole time, we wouldn't have this problem. But he keeps telling me to turn it off. How do nonprofits have access to the process of applying to be part of the CDBG process?
Kelly McDonald here as well, and he'll correct me, but each year we actually submit proposals out to the nonprofit world, you might say, to local vendors or providers who historically have provided that service to West Covina. We do public hearing notices.
Yes. Thank you. We annually publish a notice of funding availability that for the current year, or for the planning year 14-15, we published on Friday. Applications are currently available. That was published in the Tribune, and we notify our public service groups who routinely apply. We've received some calls from outside groups or folks that we funded in the past, and folks who are interested. If you're a nonprofit, you're aware of this funding availability, so they'll call local agencies to get the timelines.
Okay, and then what is the timeline? I mean, when did they have this window?
Applications were available as Monday. Deadline is the 20th of this month. We then evaluate the eligibility of those applications. We take them to an ad hoc committee of the Community Services and Senior Citizen Services Commission. They hear presentations, about a 5-minute presentation from these groups, and they make a recommendation of funding to the commission as a whole, and the commission then refers those recommendations to the City Council for consideration in a public hearing.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, this is the 2013-14 update, so we'll deal with the next year budget on the next item. At this time, if there's anyone present who wish to comment on this, public, seeing none. Any comments from the public? I don't have any cards, so probably none. So I will close the public hearing. We'll move on to council discussion. Any discussion on this item? This is to approve items in the budget for this year under CDBG program. So with that, motion is in order to approve the proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2013-14 Community Development Block Grant. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
Moved by Warshaw.
I second.
Second by Sykes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's 5-0. Okay, next public hearing is the authorization to draft the 2014-15 CDBG budget or action plan. This matter set for public hearing is the authorization to draft the 2014-15 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. City Clerk, will you verify proper legal notice has been given?
Yes, that's verified.
Okay, at this time, I shall open the public hearing on the development of the draft fiscal year 2014-15 CDBG action plan. Presentation of the staff report. Mr. Chung.
Yes, Mr. Freeland will present this report again.
Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor and Mayor City Council. So we're going to change gears here a little bit. As mentioned in the previous staff report, the City of West Covina develops a Community Development Block Grant Action Plan each year, which is the one-year strategy that addresses the use of Community Development Block Grant funds. The use of these funds are subject to those HUD guidelines that we mentioned previously that meet the goals of providing decent housing, suitable living environment, expanded economic opportunities for principally those who are low and moderate income persons. The action plan is drafted on the priorities that are established as part of a 5-year consolidation plan, which is a strategic long-term vision for the use of these funds. The last consolidated plan was adopted in 2002 and goes through 2015. During the development of the fiscal year 2010-2015 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan, the City conducted public hearings and a community meeting to receive public input from the residents in regard to prioritizing the required categories. The City also conducted an online survey and marketed the meetings through the Discover newsletter, conducted press releases, public notices, and advertised the program on the City's website. HUD requires the City to prioritize the use of Community Development Block Grant funds into 9 categories of need as a basis for the community, into 9 categories of need as a basis for the Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan for the 5-year period. Okay, so the 9 categories are shown on the screen behind me. First is infrastructure improvements, 2 public facilities, 3 other such as code enforcement, 4 homeless issues, 5 public services, 6 non-homeless special needs, 7 economic development, 8 owner-occupied housing, 9 rental housing. All these can be found in detail in attachment number 1 of your staff report. Now, while HUD requires 4 level of prioritization for each of the categories, and those 4 categories are high, medium, low, and no such need. A high priority means that activities in that category will be funded by the City using CDBG funds. A medium priority means activities in a category may be funded with CDBG funds. A low priority means CDBG funds will not be used to fund activities in a particular category. So I want to go into a little bit more detail of what this means for the public's benefit. The categories shown as medium and low do not indicate that these are not priorities of the City of West Covina. I want to make sure that that's clear to the residents. But with limited CDBG funds, the City Council is able to determine these as the priorities for those limited resources. So, for example, even though economic development is a very high priority of the City, and it is previously funded with redevelopment funds, with the elimination of redevelopment, it is now funded by general fund and successor agency funds. The owner-occupied housing and rental programs were ranked low and paid for with redevelopment housing funds. With the loss of redevelopment, these housing programs have been suspended unless reprioritized by the City Council. We do receive housing funds as part of the successor agency as well to help do these programs. So these are still priorities of the City, but not for the use of these type of funds. So I want to make sure that that was clear. Tonight, City staff is seeking the City Council's authorization to develop the draft fiscal year 2014-2015 CDBG action plan based on the needs and priorities previously identified by the City Council as part of the 2010 through 2015 consolidated plan. Okay, so tonight is the first of 2 public hearings required by HUD for the adoption of the 2014-15 action plan. The purpose of this hearing is to provide an opportunity for the citizens of our community to provide input into the identification and prioritization of the needs of our community to utilize these CDBG funds. This is also the opportunity for the City Council to reprioritize this list for fiscal year 2014-2015 action plan if they so desire. City Council will also have the opportunity to review this list during the second public hearing, which is scheduled for May 6, 2014, when the action plan is to be adopted. If authorization is approved tonight, City staff will prepare the 2014-2015 action plan and have it available for the HUD-required 30-day public review later this month. The action plan is due to HUD by May 15th. City staff would also like to share with you that funding for the Community Development Block Grant Program for the upcoming fiscal year is estimated to be reduced by at least 2% in the coming year. We've been seeing decreases over the last several years in funding for this program. And just to give you a comparison, in fiscal year 2013-2014, the City of West Covina received approximately $822,000 of Community Development Block Grant funds. These funds were utilized to provide a variety of services and programs as outlined in the staff report and as I've shared to you. We did provide an additional slide here for the public's benefit. These are some of the public service programs that are utilized with community development block grant funds here in West Covina. As Councilman Spence brought to our attention, the different nonprofit groups, these are the ones that have received funding from the City of West Covina for programming year 2012-2013, which is the last period that we did complete an evaluation. So according to the application submitted to HUD, when, for example, if you look at, let's say the Meals on Wheels program, 22 persons had signed up for the program over the course, when the application was made for by the YWCA of San Gabriel Valley, they said that they would serve a minimum of 22 persons over the course of the year. Meals on Wheels provides food for those at home Monday through Friday. In actuality, they provided service to 30 individuals. If you look at Action Food Pantry or Corey's Kitchen, Action Food Pantry said that they are looking to serve 253 persons, and these are all people from West Covina. I want to make sure I clarify that as well. They, in actuality, almost served 3,000 West Covina residents through their programs. So by the city providing some funding to these nonprofit groups, they're able to leverage funding from other sources as well to provide a wonderful service for our community. And that concludes my staff report.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Freeland? Okay, seeing none, I will now open the public comment portion of the public hearing. And Mr. Brown?
Question has to do with the problem at the senior center with adequate fire exit signs that operate and things like that. Is that going to be part of the proposal for this next plan?
I think we just approved the fire alarm system.
Yeah, our alarm system hasn't operated right at the senior center.
We just approved the funding for that. I assume that would cover any exit sign problems. So, yeah, I think we got that covered.
It's been noticed by some of the people that when the alarms go off, the lights don't come on, things like that.
Yeah, we're definitely
It's a serious
on top
problem.
of that. Yeah.
It's a violation of state law, I believe.
Yes, that will be corrected.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other testimony, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to council questions or comments. Any comments, questions? Do we have a motion to authorize staff to develop the draft 2014-15 CDBG action plan? Moved by Spence. Second. Second by Sykes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next item is public hearing on the donation drop boxes. This matter set for public hearing consists of an amendment to Chapter 26 of the West Covina Municipal Code related to donation drop boxes. City Clerk, will you verify proper legal notice has been given?
Yes, that's verified.
Okay, at this time I shall open the public hearing on Code Amendment number 1305. First be the presentation of staff report, then we shall hear from those in favor of the proposal, then those opposed. City Manager Chung.
Yes, Mr. Anderson will present this report tonight.
Thank you. On July 9, 2013, the Planning Commission initiated a code amendment to study donation drop boxes. Donation drop boxes are metal containers that are 5 to 6 feet in height, generally, and are 3 to 6 feet in width and depth. They are placed in parking lots and allow for donation of items such as clothing, shoes, and toys. The donated items are collected and sold or given away. Some are placed by nonprofits, while others are placed by for-profit businesses. Donation drop boxes are generally placed in parking lots of commercial businesses. They are picked up and a new drop box left or cleaned out periodically. The slide behind me is a picture of some of the donation drop boxes that were located in the city. As you can see, there is a variety of issues that can occur with them. And this is the most normal type of donation drop box, which is an unattended type of drop box. There's also a second type of facility that you'll see here in this photo. It's an attended drop box facility. We have one of those currently in the city of West Covina. With donation drop boxes, there are a number of issues, including graffiti, debris that piles up around the boxes, the creation of blight, and boxes appear without approvals from the city or notification of any type. Sometimes I think it's a surprise to the property owner as well. They require, then they're a drain on code enforcement resources. We currently classify them as small collection facilities, which is not really what this meant for. Those are really meant for recycling facilities. And to date, no approvals have been submitted or approved for donation drop boxes. Although you may see them around town, nobody's ever come to the city and asked them if they could be placed where they're at. Because many of these issues can be resolved if the facility is attended, the Planning Commission is recommending that only attended facilities be allowed. The Planning Commission held a study session on November 12, 2013, and a public hearing on January 28, 2014. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the code amendment. The following amendments to the municipal code are proposed. That an administrative use permit, or what we call an AUP, be required for attended donation drop boxes, and unattended facilities would not be allowed. That with that, a 300-foot notification be required as part of the review of that administrative use permit, and that a definition is created for donation drop boxes that is distinct from small collection facilities. In addition, we'll have several development standards. I'm going to go through these. Are on 3 different slides. They must be attended according to the approved schedule. They must be established in conjunction with existing or planned commercial uses, industrial uses, or service facilities that are in compliance with the zoning, building, and fire codes. They can occupy an area that is 1,000 square feet or less. They must be at least a minimum of 50 feet from the street. They must be appropriately constructed with appropriate materials. All the materials must be stored inside of the box, and they must be maintained free of undesirable materials and cleaned weekly. The noise cannot exceed 70 decibels. They must be a minimum of 250 feet from residential development. They are allowed to operate between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. They shall be open and attended at least 6 days per week. They must be patrolled on the day that they're not open to ensure a clean site. On days when they are open, they shall be open at least 6 hours per day on weekdays and 4 hours per day on weekends. Proper instructions shall be posted on the acceptable types of donation materials. The location shall not impair landscaping. No additional parking will be required for the customer parking. And the parking occupied by the drop box and attendant shall not affect the parking requirements for the underlying use for the commercial center. And drop boxes shall be removed immediately if the operation ceases. There are also a couple other code amendment cleanups or code cleanup items that are in there. One of the things is we sort of cleaned up the way the AUP notification is required, the administrative use permit, just to require that all administrative use permits require a 300-foot notice unless specifically noted otherwise. Per internal staff discussions following the Planning Commission hearing, staff is recommending the addition of one more development standard in an attempt to address graffiti issues. So that is, the graffiti-resistant coating shall be used on approved donation drop boxes to assist in deterring graffiti. And with that, the Planning Commission and staff recommend the approval of the code amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any questions? Councilmember Warshaw.
Mr. Mayor, Jeff, can you answer the question in regards to parking? In there it said up to 1,000 square feet. That could take a lot of parking. What is the requirement as far as you stated that it doesn't fill up parking, but what does that mean? Does it have to be approved by the commercial property that's doing it? Because you said some of these not necessarily attended, but the unattended ones, people just do it. At certain times of the year, I could see, it filling up at Christmas time in some of these commercial sites or others. Can you tell me what code enforcement is on that?
Okay. Well, let me just clarify again. These are the unattended types, the ones that fill up the most, because we don't have any way of knowing how often they come and and patrol these. These would not be allowed.
Right. I'm talking about the attendant.
So the attended
Yes.
type is attended on a daily basis, at least 6 days a week is required, and parking up to 1,000 square feet, which probably up to 6 spaces, but they could only take spaces that were in excess of the required parking. So they'd have to have excess parking spaces to allow for the attended facility to be located there at all.
And so during the AUP process, the city would check to make
That's
sure
correct.
that...
They'd submit the application. We would verify the parking. They had excess parking at the site. We would also require the property owner to sign the application so that they're part of the process as well.
Are they also required to get a business permit?
Any business in the city is required to get a business license, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Spence.
I guess that was part of my question. My question is, who actually is going to be holding the permit? Is it the nonprofit, or is it going to be the landowner, the business owner that's going to be holding the permit for these boxes?
Well, now that's going to depend on who submits the application, but any planning entitlement runs with the property no matter who the applicant is. So if you were to submit an application but later sell it to Councilman Warshaw, then he becomes the holder of it. It runs with the property, not with the person.
Right, okay, so I guess I'm just trying to theorize this, is that, okay, there's a nonprofit that wants to do this, so they'll come and get a permit but not have the permission of the property owner? I mean, how does, or, because I think some of these boxes that just get placed in corners, I'm not sure the property owner really signed off on it, or the tenants, no one knows how it got there for a certain amount of time, that kind of stuff. So
Correct.
I'm trying to figure out who's holding the permit that will hold responsible for the attending of it. I mean, shouldn't it be the property owner?
Well, the way that normally it would probably work, sometimes the property owner could submit it, but normally I wouldn't call it a nonprofit, but the applicant for the donation drop box is going to submit the application with the owner's consent.
And so that's part of the application, and they would have to show that the owner has signed off on it, or they have some kind of agreement with it.
Correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
And then, second question I have is how this relates to churches, and temporary drives, because I know there are churches where they will have temporary drop box facilities in the back of their church or someplace where people can donate different items, and then after a week they haul it off. So for the way I'm sounding this, that would ban churches from having those types of drop facilities on their property. Is that correct?
If they were this type,
or a trailer? I mean, because it says trailer in here. The one I'm thinking of specifically I know is a trailer that they park in the back of the church for a week. You have to have the secret code to get in, and then you can place goods that are then as part of their non-profit work.
I'm not aware of that type of facility. That didn't come up in any of our discussions. It wasn't the intent to stop churches from doing charitable activities, whether they're doing that within their facility or in some type of situation outside. You could probably put in here something to the effect that that churches are exempt from these proceedings, or I shouldn't say churches, but religious facilities are exempt, or religious facilities might have a different process.
Or I'd be
I think the difference there is permanent or long-term
No, but
versus
that's not,
temporary.
when you read this, so that's not what it says. There's no time limit on
There
this.
should be something that's a temporary
There's no time limit on this, though, when you read the code. There's no time limit. It just says any facility, including churches.
Yeah, but there are churches that have them permanent, and they're not huge boxes, but they could be the size of that green one. But I thought this only talked about commercial and business locations. It didn't say anything about the others that it would be outlawed.
True, it does, but it does include the matrix to what zones it's allowed in, so that would be all the zones in the city, and it's not. And churches are allowed in all zones in the city, so they are probably in a variety of different zones. So I don't think if we're going to craft something regarding religious facilities, we probably should put it in the standards.
Well, speaking, I think that's something I am concerned about, that I think that we should, I don't want us to go in the back of churches and start yanking out boxes saying they didn't have a permit, or temporary trailers and stuff.
Can I ask a question? Is this for a temporary time
Well, the
frame,
one I'm
like a
thinking of
week,
I know
or-
is temporary, but there are other churches that do this kind of stuff all the time.
Well, instead of I believe that we might be able to insert language, the fact that if it's a religious facility on a temporary basis for not more than a week or so, that might be able to do it. But you could also refer this back to staff, and we can come back with additional language.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilman Warsham.
Yeah, I would like that portion of it referred back because a lot of the different religious organizations collect clothes and other things year-round to give out. And I would like to see something where it's put on the facility has to be approved by the city, just to make sure that it's not bothering neighbors or anything else.
On the religious?
But that it is allowed on a religious property.
Okay. And if it's referred back, probably should be referred back to the Planning Commission. That's probably the correct thing to do, to consider religious facilities and how those should be addressed in this code amendment.
And one part of that process can be to contact them and, review how they do use those facilities and see how it can, I'm not aware of any problems, in that regard, but I still think that, like those kind of problems, I have not seen on church properties, but, I still think we should contact them and figure that out.
It might be helpful if someone knew of a religious facility that was doing that, so we didn't spin our wheels.
I can help you with that.
Okay.
At least in one case.
Okay, I had a question with regards to existing. I know the one at the mall, which is that other picture you showed. Now that's an existing.
Correct.
So are they going to come in with the mall owner and ask for a permit from the city?
We have let them know that would be the correct procedure if the code amendment is adopted, to allow them to remain, that they would need an administrative use permit.
Okay, so then the city would look at the parking to make sure this isn't going to infringe upon the original parking agreement of the mall and everything. Okay. I actually brought this to the council probably a year ago because these other boxes on the first picture there, can you go back to that slide? They were just popping up around town, and nobody knew who was dropping them off. Nobody knew anything about them, and so about the same time other cities started having the same problem, so we took a look at it. But I think Planning Commission and staff's done a pretty good job. We could fine-tune it a little bit on the church thing, but I think you can see that those aren't the most sightly things to have in your shopping center. I remember one at Home Depot, and I was like talking to the manager at Home Depot. They didn't even know it was there. But the other thing that kind of concerns me too is nonprofit versus profit. I don't. Sometimes when you say nonprofit, I mean that doesn't necessarily mean they don't make money. It's a different structure, and so I don't know if there's a way to make sure that these are, legitimate nonprofit organizations or stuff like that. I don't know if there's any way to look into that, but we don't have anything in the code about having a tax ID number or anything
No,
like
but that could be required. As far as we understand, and some of the planning commissioners actually had firsthand knowledge that these are not all nonprofits. Some are for-profit. So they run the gamut. Some are nonprofit, some are for-profit, some are probably nonprofit. There's money being made by people. But you could restrict these to only nonprofits. There's paperwork we could require them to submit to ensure that it is a nonprofit.
Personally, I think they should be nonprofit. I don't agree with somebody making money. I mean, I don't know what's that?
All the recyclers are making money. I mean, the recycling centers are not nonprofit recycling centers, So, are we going to then ban recycling centers?
Do we get a cut of the recycling centers, the city? I mean, we obviously get sales tax off it, right?
No.
Well, recycling centers have been an issue in the past. We actually had to revoke one previously due to the noise. It is a different issue in itself, just due to
the more stuff you add to these shopping centers, the more policing you have to do, the more, we've approved these shopping centers in these locations with adequate parking, and then all of a sudden stuff changes out there, and the owners don't necessarily know because a lot of the owners aren't on site. So I would support just using these for nonprofits and nonprofits. That would just be my position. But.
Well, I would
Mayor Pro Tem
oppose that.
Sykes.
I would oppose that.
Okay, you oppose.
Because, I mean, I know for nonprofits where there's plenty of people making money. I know for-profits where people are barely making money. And, but, you know, I think our recycling centers, those are clearly for-profit operations, and that's why they exist, is because there's a profit being made there. And so I kind of, you know, I would hate to go ahead and eliminate currently good operating recycling centers that we have operating in the city.
Yes.
I think those are a little different than a drop-off box.
And just so I understand, in the code, we're trying to make a distinction between the two things. But I think if I understand what the council member is saying, that it's a policy question.
Okay, any other comments? We're going to send this back to staff. Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. Regarding for instance, the recycling operation that's at Vons, is that done through permit, through the store? Is that separate from the store? Can you just expound on that, please? Thank you.
That wouldn't be done through this permit process. That would be done through the other permit process, the small recycling center. It's an existing code standard that was put in place in the early 90s, I believe.
Okay, so the city does get funds from that operation, or no?
No, we don't get funds, but we do go through a process of approving them.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Toma.
Just to get a sense of the scope or the impact of this, can you tell us again, like how many there were and how many were actually staffed currently?
There were about 15 in the city when we first started code enforcement actions last summer. All of those have been removed. Those were the unmanned, like you see, or the unattended, like you see here. As far as we've been able to ascertain, this is the only one that's manned in the city.
And was that one manned with the hours that we're prescribing or potentially prescribing in the new standards?
We have communicated with them. They did show up. They did send representatives to one of the study sessions at the Planning Commission. We've been communicating with them all along, and actually let them know for tonight's meeting. They don't have any concerns with the standards that have been suggested here.
I guess my last comment is that if we're, you know, I don't think I have a problem with making exception for churches if it's temporary, but maybe might want to consider including, you know, all nonprofit charitable organizations if that's helpful. I think it would primarily be churches, is my guess, that would take advantage of that kind of temporary use, but I think I would probably support that.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Warshaw.
Yeah, in regards to the for-profit, there are many for-profit organizations that donate a portion to help the homeless and the needy. So I would be against not allowing them to. And as far as this ordinance, it does require that they get permission from the owner of the property, so they can't just put them up.
Okay, is there a possibility of having a fee structure for a nonprofit versus a for-profit?
Yes, that could occur. When we can bring back the public hearing, it would be the ordinance itself. The fee structure would be part of the fee and charge, which would probably have to be done separately. It could follow up.
Okay, maybe that's a way to look at it. Any other comments, questions? At this time, yeah, I'm going to ask for the public comment. We're going to send this back to staff. Should we take comment tonight, or should we not?
It's at the option of the council, but since you are referring it back to staff for further work, you may want to just defer public comment until a future date.
Or you can also accept public comment, and we can also, that can be a consideration to refer back to if there's any other.
Okay, well, I'll take public comment. And Lola wanted to say something, so I don't know if there's anybody else, but.
Area where all those were popping up, so I'm really happy to hear that the small ones, they're probably tired of me calling. My concern is, are we going to put a limit in the city? You know, right there on Stater Brothers on Belinda and Amar, they have the recycling one, but it's so huge. 1,000 square feet is large. So maybe if we can look at addressing where they put them. I mean, can we put them behind the stores and then limit how many we allow in the city? Also, again, with the graffiti, if they have the graffiti, they have 24 hours to address that issue. The landlord they addressed, and then not by the street, because what happens for the drop-off, at least by my neighborhood, the cars are pulling off by Officer Childs and literally getting with bags, stopping traffic and dumping it off. So make sure they're not by the streets, but I prefer them where they're not in a visual area, where they're, just not making our city look pretty. Let's see. And a limit on how many we have in the city. And I agree with them on the nonprofit versus profit. I think there shouldn't be any difference, but if you guys want to do a fee structure, I don't think anyone should pay more or less in profit or nonprofit. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? No, you have to come to the microphone.
I'd just like to address the temporary that you talked about and with churches, and I'd sure like to see it changed to permanent with churches. This is in Covina, but an example, Love in the Name of Christ has an which is an organization that gives to the poor and gives out food vouchers and clothing and all that sorts of things. And there's a permanent drop box that is at the back of the property on one of the church sites. And we get so many things there from the community, clothes, and which we then hand out to the needy, and also things which can be sold, which then we can get the money for food vouchers and for bus passes and things like that. And this isn't, if you have it temporary, like somebody mentioned, a week or two at a time, that's just for a special thing. But this doesn't bother anybody. It's at the back of the church. And no one sees it except the people that are coming to the church or the people that are coming to drop off things. And we really make a lot of money, which we can give then out to people that need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we please get your name for the record, please?
Corliss Renicky.
Thank you.
I think that's something that this administrative use permit could cover, is something permanent. They could apply for that. Okay. Another speaker?
Hi, my name is Fred Dominguez. I am a representative of Hope Rehabilitation Services. We operate this particular drop box. The drop box is manned from 11 to 7 every day by one individual, 7 days a week. The proceeds that come from donations to this drop box also support 3 individuals with development disabilities who actually pick up litter throughout the whole mall. So it's a kind of not just the donation center for this, but it's benefiting the city of West Covina and the Westfield Mall with litter abatement. Just wanted to clarify that that's what they're doing.
Are you for profit or non-profit?
It's a non-profit, Hope Rehabilitation Services.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? Former Mayor Wong.
Good evening, Ben Wong, West Covina. I hadn't actually paid much attention to this item, and as I'm listening to the staff report, and as a limited government Democrat, frankly, I'm asking myself, you've got a solution looking for a problem. I think I heard the planning director say that the 15 units that were cited by code enforcement are all gone. You've got property owners that, if they're allowing this to be there, why do we care as a government, whether they're profit, nonprofit, and if they're not allowed there by the property owner, cite them, get rid of them. I talked to Dan Edwards of Athens, and I said, if somebody dropped one of those on my property, can I call for a bulky item pickup? I mean, it seems to me you're creating more problems than you're solving. You have these questions about temporary. I mean, Toys for Tots, is that bad? Churches, permanent. I mean, we have property maintenance standards in West Covina. If it's a blight, cite them in code enforcement. You've got the tools you've got now. It seems to me, as I'm just listening to this report, and I haven't read the entire report, you've got a solution looking for a problem. And it's creating potentially more problems because you're going to limit nonprofits. That if a church wanted to put a permanent drop box that they don't have the volunteers, the staff, to collect clothes for the homeless, this presumably would stop it. And all your attempts to try to solve a problem I don't see it's a big problem. You've solved it. Code enforcement got rid of the 15. This one is manned. They would meet your standards that you're proposing, and they don't seem to be a problem. If that got blighted and dirty, code enforcement ought to go sign them. I don't see why you're wasting everybody's time, to be honest.
Thank you. I would say that just from the comments I hear around town, that people don't like them. They're unsightly, and they, and then the property owners, a lot of times, like I say, at Home Depot, they didn't even know it was there. So from my perspective, it's a blight in the community. I think we just need something to address it, and I think we've done that. So, but anyway, any other comments, questions? We're sending it back. Yeah. So this will go. Any other public comments? Let me close public hearing. Okay, we'll close the public comment portion.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make
Councilor
sure,
Wishart.
because I heard this isn't going back to staff, this is going back to Planning Commission.
Yeah, there should be a vote to send it back to the Planning Commission, yes.
Okay, do we have a motion to send it to Planning Commission?
So moved.
Councilmember Spence, second by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we'll take the last public hearing and then we'll take a quick break. So this matter set for public hearing consists of the extension of an urgency ordinance to prohibit the issuance of approval for the operation of adult-oriented businesses, to study the development standards and provide a progress report on the code amendment under consideration. City Clerk, will you verify proper legal notice has been given?
That's verified.
This time I shall open the public hearing on the moratorium extension. There will first be the presentation of the staff report. Then we shall hear from those in favor of the proposal and then those opposed. City staff?
Yes, Mr. Anderson will present this. This is a moratorium extension for the adult-oriented businesses. A moratorium ordinance was adopted at the City Council meeting of February 4th, 2014. The moratorium would prohibit the issuance of approvals for the operation of adult-oriented businesses in the city. The original moratorium was for 45 days and will expire in mid-March. Staff is recommending the adoption of an ordinance extending the moratorium for an additional 10 months and 15 days, lasting until February 4th, 2015. The purpose of the moratorium is to allow staff to process a code amendment to consider revisions to the adult-oriented business section of the municipal code. The current municipal code standards were adopted in 1994, and revisions were made to the standards in 1996. Since it's been 18 years since the adult-oriented business standards were evaluated, it is appropriate to adopt a moratorium to allow for consideration of the adequacy of the standards. Adult-oriented businesses are protected under free speech in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Staff will be consulting with the City Attorney's Office to determine if any changes are required based on changes in law, as well as legal precedents that may have occurred over the last 2 decades. Staff will also research the adult-oriented business requirements of other jurisdictions to allow for comparison with the current city standards. It is expected that a study by the City Attorney's Office and staff research will take several months, and an estimated process timeline has been included as attachment 2 in your packets. Code amendments require public hearings before the Planning Commission and the City Council before any changes would be made to the code. This concludes staff presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go over the alternatives or timeline.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any questions? We've had this before us a couple times. No questions. I'll open the public comment portion. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is one moratorium I am for 100%. I'd like to tell you a little story. Back in the early 70s, I used to work at one of these places in my younger days.
I hope not.
But we won't talk about that. No, but what had happened, one night there was a fight that broke out in one of these because you get all kinds of people that come into it. Well, that one night, I got stabbed with a 5-inch stiletto. For those who don't know what it is, that's like a switchblade, but the knife comes straight out the end. Well, I came 15 minutes of bleeding to death internally. Cut a hole in my intestines, cut a hole in an artery, and cut a hole in my stomach. These are the kind of people that do go to these type of places. You might get some regular nice people come in, but they'll also, you're going to get the groups that are going to come in, and for one reason or other, you're going to have problems. So this is one moratorium. I would love to see this council hold up so we can get some kind of standards that we really have to put in place before any business like this does happen in West Covina. We don't need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other testimony? We'll close public testimony portion. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up.
I really don't have an opinion on that kind of stuff, do what you want, but in my city, I do have an opinion. I just soon rather us just stay away from it. I mean, we know what we want in West Covina, and I think everyone on the board wants exactly what I want, and we just better safe than sorry, and don't start opening doors that we can't close, and there's plenty of other cities that allow it, and if they want to do it, they can do it in another city. I just think West Covina should stick to our standards and what we want our community, what we want our children and our grandchildren to be raised in. And so there's a lot of other cities that allow it, and let them go and open business in whatever cities we can get our tax revenue a different way. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? Just so we're all clear on this is a moratorium to prohibit adult-oriented businesses.
I've been around in Long Beach, West Covina for a long time, and the Red Onion days, we had some real problems with the operation of the Red Onion there, where the present crazy horse is right now. We are down in police, we're down in fire, but mainly police. We need the police to be in the residential neighborhoods, not in the parking lots of an adult facility, entertainment. That's just my take on it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll close the public testimony portion and open it up for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Warshaw.
I just want the public to know we don't have a choice of whether to allow them or not. We are required to allow them somewhere. So what we're trying to do with this moratorium is figure out where that will meet the standards required. If I had my brothers, I wouldn't put them here at all, but we don't, and that's the reason for the moratorium.
Okay, do we have a motion? Any comments? Motion?
I just motion that we follow the recommendation of the staff to continue the moratorium.
Okay, this is
I'll second it.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt this urgency ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's call the meeting back to order. We're going to go to the Finance and Administrative Services, the fiscal year 2013-14 mid-year budget review. City staff, city manager, do we have a staff report?
Yes, Ms. Nita McKay, our finance director, admin and service manager director, will present the staff report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Item number 13 before you this evening is the city's fiscal year 2013-14 mid-year budget review. The City Council adopted the all-funds budget on June 18, 2013, and as you will recall, we adopt that for all of the funds, which include the general fund, special revenue funds, debt service fund, capital project funds, as well as our internal service funds and our one enterprise fund. Additionally, we also adopt the budget for the successor agency, which is the former redevelopment agency. The total all-funds budget at time of adoption was $106.5 million in revenue and $106.7 million in expenditures. As we concentrated on the general fund during our budget adoption workshop, we will again this evening concentrate mainly on the general fund budget. As you can see in the back of the staff report, there are also some of our significant other funds which we went over, total expenditures and revenues for those funds, and I would be happy to go into detail on those at the end of the presentation if you prefer. At the beginning of the year, or right now, we have adopted revenues when they're compared to the prior fiscal year of 2012-13, an increase in revenues. This is all this is all general fund revenues, an increase of $2.2 million over the prior fiscal year, and expenditures increasing $2.5 million, 2.5% over the prior fiscal year. Expenditures increase, and we talk about the increase is in those items. The main increases that you will see throughout the budget process or throughout the mid-year budget process is an increase in personnel costs. We speak at the end of the report about our increasing pension costs through CalPERS. Those will be going up again, and those went up this fiscal year in the budget, and then there was a small increase to the miscellaneous employees bargaining groups of a 2% cost of living adjustment. The pie chart shows our general fund revenue sources, and on pages 4 and 5 of the staff report, I discuss all of the top 10 revenue sources in the general fund. This chart also, which is in your staff report, discusses the top 10 revenue sources as well as all the revenue sources in the general fund. General fund revenues totaled $18.2 million at December 31st, 2013, compared to $18.5 million for the same time period 1 year earlier. After subtracting the one-time revenue, which was almost $1 million, this is an increase of $804,000 or 4.9% when compared to the same time period 1 year earlier. Going to go into the two main revenue sources of the city's general fund. Property tax, which is our #1 revenue source for the general fund, and it represents 36.2% of all general fund revenues. It looks low at this time of the fiscal year, but it is not. It is actually on track. We projected that we would receive less than a 1% increase in property tax revenues for the fiscal year compared to the prior fiscal year, but we are currently at 2.9% higher than the prior fiscal year. In January of each year, we receive, and this is why it looks low, we receive a portion of what the state termed the triple flip, which is our property tax in lieu. This is the portion that is actually almost 3% higher than the payment we received in January of 2013. We also received about the same amount, $779,000. In our former redevelopment agency, it's the residual tax increment that we receive from the dissolved redevelopment agency. Our sales tax budget comparison. Our sales tax makes up about 30% of general fund revenues, so you can see that these top two revenue sources make up a large share of the city's general fund revenues. We originally projected this to increase 9.9% for the fiscal year. We are on track with that. We have confirmed that estimate with our sales tax consultant, HDL companies, who assist us in projecting sales tax and property taxes for the city each year. The city also receives in sales tax a sales tax in lieu payment. These payments are only received twice a year in January and May. Our payment that the city received in January 2014 was 13.2% higher than the previous year's payment in January of 2013. At this time, I'm not going to go into any detail on the other revenue sources, but would be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. The city's general fund expenditures, shifting to the other side of the equation. Excluding one-time expenditures, we are at $25.8 million at December 31st, 2013, compared to $25.5 million for the second quarter of the prior fiscal year. This is an increase of 1% over the prior fiscal year, keeping in mind that we had the cost of living adjustment and also the increase in pension costs. So to be up 1%. All departments, this is by department, and then this is the chart that's also in your staff report. This shows that all departments are at or below 50% expended at the end of the second quarter or at mid-year of the fiscal year. Going into a few items that we took into account when we balanced the current city budget, or the current general fund budget of the city, back in May and June, when the council adopted it in June of this past year, 2013. We have, as I mentioned, we have rising pension costs. Just an indication of how they've risen over the years. From 2008-9 to our current fiscal year budget of 2013-14, the public safety pension costs went from 25% to 39%. That's a salary. The miscellaneous employees' pension costs went from 9% to almost 15%, 14.7%. We already discussed the cost of living adjustment. Items that we did to cut costs. We did a reorganization of 2 departments. That would be combining the city manager's office with the former Community Development Commission, CDC department, and also combining human resources and finance into the Finance and Administrative Services Department. The combination of combining those 2 departments saved $240,000 in the current fiscal year's budget. We had one-time salary savings where we hired retired annuitants, our interim fire chief and our interim police chief at the time, for a cost savings of $120,000 for the budget. We lost, I should say our former SAFER grant came to a close at the end of mid-December. We closed that out, and we lost the 12 positions, not 12 people, but 12 positions, and that was a reduction to the budget of $640,000. We also, and I'll talk more about the fact at the end of the mid-year budget presentation, that we have just received word that we are awarded a new SAFER grant for the upcoming fiscal year, or the upcoming 2-year period. We were able to reduce, as you know, we're self-insured, and we have a separate fund which deals with our workers' compensation and general liability. And because of the savings in workers' compensation costs over the year, we were able to reduce the police departments to 5%, thus saving money in that area on the charges to the general fund salary and benefits. I'm going to go over briefly just each department. So each department, in the backup behind the staff report, you have the original adopted budget as far as the organizational chart. I'm going to, on each department, tell you how many positions are currently budgeted in that department, and their original budget, and any changes. And you'll see if it's within the 1-2% of an increase, it's going to be the salary and benefit costs that we've talked about already. Administration is considered city council, city manager, and city attorney. They are combined for budgetary purposes. There are 7 full-time positions budgeted in administration, and the total budget for this year is $1.5 million, up only $30,000 or 2%. Related to salary and related to benefits. The city clerk's office, this looks way out of whack, but this is the election in the current fiscal year. They have full-time positions budgeted of 3, and their budget is $1 million, of which $300,000 of that is budgeted for the election that took place in November. And we haven't received our bill yet from the county, so we don't know if that's a good projection or not. Finance and Administrative Services is a budget of $2.7 million, or up $108,000. 22 full-time positions, salary and benefits, and PERS. We also have additional contractual costs for our PERS Health Administration, our independent auditor that performs our independent audit each year as well. Planning's budget, 5 full-time positions, and down from the prior fiscal year $10,000, so pretty much the same for the planning department. The police department's budget for the fiscal year is $25.3 million. Up $516,000 or 2%. We have in this budget the 153 full-time positions, plus the 2 police officer sworn positions that were added as part of the bond refunding. And that was for half of a year, so we added, as you will recall, the City Council approved the budget appropriation when the bond refunding went through, and I'm looking for my detail on that to tell you what happened with that, but we were successful in refunding that bond. The bond refunding was for $2,185,000, and we started with a rate of 0.25, and this week's variable rate was 0.08%. We were currently, at the time before we refunded, we were at 5%, over 5%, and as you will recall, we had projected savings annually starting with $173,000 up to $185,000 thereabouts on our projections, because we also, and that's including the 4% cap. So we were able to fund 2 police officer positions with that savings. And that is actually included in their budget because the budget amendment was already performed. The fire department, $15.9 million, up just $70,000, which is 0.5%. There are 70 full-time positions. The full-time positions do not include the SAFER grant positions that we lost, so those are not included in the 70 positions. The reason it's up is because we, as you will recall, in a prior council meeting, the City Council approved the purchase of 2 new ambulances for our ambulance service, which we receive in the general fund $1.8 million annually in revenue, and it's the lease payment on those new ambulances for $78,000. Public Works Department, and this is just the general fund department, or general fund portion of the Public Works Department. As you may know, there are some of the positions and charges of the Public Works Department are in various other funds like the gas tax fund and such. The increase of the $4.3 million in the general fund with 60 positions is 3.5% increase, and most of that increase is in electricity costs for the year. Community Services Department is $1.9 million for this fiscal year, up $28,000 or 1.5%. That is salary and benefit costs, and 10 full-time positions. That's a brief overview of each department. Now for our recommended budget adjustments for the year. We will start with general fund. We only have a few. In September of 2013, September 17th, the council approved our new fee and charge revenue schedule, which was estimated to generate, and we are on track for that. That went into effect October 1st of 2013. Estimated to generate $187,200 for this portion of the year. We are asking to increase our revenue projections by that amount. On the appropriations or expenditures side, each year Athens, as part of their contract, gives a donation to the city's general fund of $100,000. $25,000 of that is to be utilized for the SWAT team in the police department. These were not budgeted at the time we adopted the budget, so we are asking for an appropriation of $25,000 to purchase the SWAT rifles. These are detailed in more detail in the staff report. Item number 2 on the appropriation side is the air duct cleaning at City Hall of the 2nd and 3rd floor offices. The general fund portion is $8,000. And item number 3 on expenditures, as you may know, the west elevator is currently inoperable, and we are asking to repair that for a cost to the general fund of $2,000. Other funds recommended budget adjustments at mid-year. This is the Proposition C portion of the fee and charge increase. I believe this is for transportation costs, the additional fare for the transportation that the city provides. This goes into our Proposition C fund, which is a special revenue fund, increases of fees for $37,500 in revenue. On the expenditure side, we are asking to appropriate $10,000 for additional advertising and publication costs for the city transportation service of $10,000, and that is covered by the increase in revenue. In the construction tax fund, which is also a special revenue fund, we are asking for the additional cost of the air duct cleaning of $4,000, and the additional cost of the City Hall west elevator repairs for $60,720 to repair the west elevator. Let me explain this chart. And this is where we can get into a little bit of the $12.2 million that was spoken about by the public tonight and also in closed session earlier this evening. So when we began this fiscal year, the total, if you look at the city's comprehensive annual financial report at June 30th, 2013, the city's general fund has a $10.7 million general fund balance. That is because if you look at the prior one, we have now moved the $12.2 million, which was in the fund balance, as a set aside, a designation, a non-spendable. We have now, according to accounting rules, we have moved that to a liability in the general fund, and it actually, if you look at the city's CAFR, you can see it as a liability due to the successor agency of $12.2 million. The revenues here as transfers is the revenues and transfers. If you approve the new estimated revenues that we're adding of $187,000, the expenditures and transfers out to other funds includes the adjustments were recommended this evening. And then if you do, so operating surplus is based upon current revenues and expenditures, and revenues being higher than expenditures. We are still projecting an $89,000 operating surplus, so we're not overspending our current year revenues in the general fund. Originally, we projected $32,000. Now, the next line item, because you will see that expenditures slightly exceed revenues, but that is because at the end of each fiscal year, we have certain obligations of the city, purchase orders for various items, and I have a list of those that we carry it forward into the new year, and so you're actually spending the leftover fund balance from the prior year. It's not considered in your current operating surplus or deficit. So we will end the fiscal year with $10.7 million in fund balance in the general fund. And this is what this is made up of. We still have on our books, it's about $6.5 million in successor agency loans from the former successor agency, to the former redevelopment agency. Those are the ones that we didn't have to reduce the interest on because it's straight principal. We have a long-term investment in the city's general fund, which is earning 10%. It was from the sale of our public utility in the mid-1980s, so we want to keep that intact because we earn a lot of interest on that currently. And then you have what's left now because of the transfer out of the $12.2 million. You have only $381,000, or we're projecting $381,000 at the end of the fiscal year, which would be unassigned and not reserved for any purpose. Briefly, this is a pie chart of all the revenues of the entire city, all the special revenue funds, the enterprise fund, the general fund is included in here. This is the $106.5 million. And on the flip side, the all funds expenditures, including the successor agency, including the city's enterprise fund, the police enterprise fund of $106.7 million. Upcoming fiscal issues or financial issues, some of them good and some of them bad, so we'll kind of mix it up a little bit. The CalPERS increase is detailed in your staff report. They are increasing it again. So we already have our rates for the beginning of fiscal that start July 1st of fiscal year 2014-15, and these are items we will be bringing back to the City Council when we do our budget workshops in May of this year. Our pension costs for safety employees are increasing from 38.955 to just over 43%, so an increase, and this is on covered payroll, on the payroll of safety employees, increasing 4.3%. Miscellaneous employees, non-safety, is increasing just over 2%, 2.4%. We are projecting, if we take our current staffing levels and apply those percentage increases of pension costs, that it will be a cost to the general fund, an increase in cost of $912,000 next fiscal year. Last week, we also, the CalPERS Board of Administration approved some new demographic assumptions designed to ensure greater sustainability of our CalPERS pension plan. Those will go into effect for the City of West Covina in fiscal year 2016-17. Currently, CalPERS staff members are estimating that our safety costs could go up to as high as 9% additional because of these new demographic assumptions. The next item is a good item. We actually just this last weekend applied for retroactive payment for the state plan amendment for ground emergency medical transportation, or GEMT, cost recovery. They allowed us to go back retroactively to fiscal year 2009-10 through 2012-13, and we applied for reimbursement of $1.3 million. This will be an ongoing revenue source that we estimate will be around $300,000 annually to the city's general fund. We also received word about the 20th of the month or so that we have been awarded. We applied for a new SAFER grant. We received word that we were awarded that grant of $4.7 million, and it is to fund 13 positions within the city's fire department with no required matching from the city. We will be bringing that back for further discussion with the city council, probably at the next meeting or an upcoming council meeting. I put in the staff report discussing our commitment to fund our emergency reserve or a financial sustainability reserve in the city's general fund, but the news earlier this week of losing the lawsuit with the state, we may have to start with even smaller baby steps on that. But I did a discussion of that when we adopted the budget in June of this last year, and we will probably recommend some small amount in the upcoming fiscal year to start at least reserving that rainy day fund for the city's general fund. The last item is the impact again on the elimination of redevelopment, and we've talked about that this evening, that we discussed in closed session with the City Council that we lost our lawsuit with the state. We owe the state back the $11.5 million. When we talk about the $12.2, it's an amount that we need to return from the general fund to the successor agency, but not to the state. And lastly, the fiscal impact of this would be, if the council chooses to do so, would to approve the revenue estimates, which are detailed at the end in the fiscal impact of the $187,200 to the general fund, Proposition C of $37,500. Total expenditure appropriations would be increased $35,000 in the general fund. Proposition C fund appropriations would be increased $10,000, and the construction tax fund appropriations would be increased $64,800. That concludes my presentation. I believe we have representatives from all of the departments here this evening. I would be happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure if I can't answer them, the other departments would be able to. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of staff? Do you have comments?
Yeah, I guess I do have questions and comments. When it comes to redevelopment, has there been a city that owed the state money that has just went ahead and wrote the check and given it to them? And how many, or what was the amounts?
I have heard that there have been cities that have written a check. Fontana comes to mind. I've heard that they may have. Some have and some haven't. I don't know the exact numbers, but there are some that have written that check.
Based on the Superior Court judge's ruling, it prohibited the state from withholding state sales tax and those kinds of funds to recoup the cost, but theoretically the county could do that through property taxes. Is that correct?
Theoretically, they could, but that is also subject to challenge based upon the same theory of the sales tax, of it being unconstitutional under Prop 22.
So let's say they were able to do that. What would be the time frame that it would take them to recoup the 11 million from property taxes, based on the rate that property taxes are collected?
We have estimated that we are going to receive 19 million in property tax for the fiscal year, and at midway through the fiscal year we had received, if I can find my chart,
So it would take like 9 months?
we had actually received 4.3, so it would take just under a year to recoup that.
Okay, because obviously that's probably a better, if they're going to do that, that's better for us cash flow wise than it would be to go ahead and write a check. I'm just, based on what you said about cash flow, that we wouldn't have money to. Is that correct?
It would still have the same impact. We wouldn't
Just
get
not
the
as
revenue
fast.
coming in. We would have to borrow, and most likely the tax revenue allocation notes, which are called trans, which are, I believe, very low as far as interest rate. But we would still need to have to do that.
Okay. The other question I had deals with the paramedic fire subscription tax. Or fee or whatever. It's a three-letter word, but and that is whether or not I've always had problems with the paramedic subscription tax, because in my point of view, as a property owner, someone that buys a house here, that public safety should be the first thing. It seems like if city did nothing else, they should be able to send an emergency vehicle to come get me and take me to the hospital if need be. So I've never liked that, because I always thought it was a way of scaring older and sicker people into paying a subscription fee. But I don't have a problem recovering from insurance or those kinds of things. So I have a question, and that is, the amount collected is actually not that much. And so, would it be better if we said, hey, everybody gets a free one, we'll bill insurance, but if you start having multiple uses of it over periods of time, because I would suspect that the people that are subscribing are people that probably think they might use it more than 1, 2, 3 times over the course of a year. How does that work? Right?
Well,
if you pay the money, we don't recover the cost, correct?
Correct.
So, there's people with insurance that are paying $45 or whatever the amount is. I don't remember the amount. $50, and then they have insurance, and yet they can have 3, 4, 5 uses of the ambulance service without us ever collecting anything from insurance companies, while somebody who is also paying property taxes doesn't subscribe, and then we hit them with we charge the insurance and then hit them with another $500 fee on top of it.
As part of the new upcoming budget, I would recommend bringing this back to you with all the pros and cons and how to address your concerns.
If I can just add a comment on that. Because of covered care, when you do bring that back, because people are going to be required to have insurance, so will that change, and maybe we can make a change at that point in time. So I would like that looked at.
Well, let me investigate more and bring back a report to you, and then we can move from there.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, Mr.
Councilman Warshaw.
The investment earnings, now most of that is the money that's invested from the redevelopment to the other, is that correct?
The investment earnings, it was in the past, because the general fund actually received interest on the notes to the former redevelopment agency. Right now, the investment interest that we're earning in the general fund is all investments, keeping in mind that we still have a long-term agency investment that is in the debt service fund. It's not part of the general fund, and it's a larger note of $10 million, or agency and $10 million, and it's also earning 10% interest. So the general fund splits the interest with the debt service fund on that, and so that's the majority, because right now, for cash flow purposes and liquidity, we are only invested in the state pool, LAIF, and we're also invested in the LA County pool, which LAIF is earning probably 0.2 something percent right now, and LA County a little bit higher than that.
Right.
So we're not getting much
from that. Now, as Councilmember Spence stated, you know, it might be better to take property tax away because then we can still get that higher investment, which we're earning 10% on. Is that correct? And to borrow money would probably cost less.
Yes, actually, I spoke with Wells Fargo, who is our bank, and they were the ones that issued our last trans, and they said we could probably conservatively, with a balanced budget and that additional investment that has the high rate of return, reserve that in the general fund, we could probably get 0.5% or less on an interest rate on the trans.
Okay, so that might be a reason to hold off on paying them up front. Okay, thank you.
And Anita, can you also comment the fact is that due to the state requiring us to restructure our loans from the redevelopment agency, that we essentially lost value in our assets?
Yes, we actually, because of AB 1484, they said that we needed to go back and adjust. So in the past, when we had the notes from the former redevelopment agency that were owed to the city's general fund, we charged interest, and because the redevelopment agency did not pay the interest, we added it on as principal. They said as part of 1484, we had to go back and adjust those interest back to the LAIF rate, which is LAIF rate, they're interpreting it as LAIF rate now, which is 0.2 something. So it basically wiped out most of our notes, the balance in our notes. So we went from 15.5 million in notes receivable from the former redevelopment agency to 6.4.
Councilmember Toma?
So just a question on that. So I noticed that's where we're talking about a loss of 8.9 million. So just so I understand, the reason why that's not readily available is because it's on a payment plan as a loan, and so therefore even though it's held by the successor agency still, so we don't have access to it immediately. Is that what's going on?
Yes, and actually we are not able to add the 6.5 million onto our ROPS yet as an enforceable obligation. That we have to repay the CRAF, which is the payments to the housing successor agency first, and then we have to actually have a finding of completion before we can start paying back the notes, and there's a whole formula on how we calculate how much we can pay back.
But before we get the finding of completion, we also have to pay back the 11.5 million.
Okay, any other questions? I have a question related to our staff here at the city. What is our current staffing level, total employees in the city? And what was it at the highest?
I believe in the current budget, now I don't have full-time equivalents, which would be part-timers turned into full-time hours, but in the current budget we have budgeted, I believe it's 330 positions within the current budget, and I don't know, I don't think I have the history.
Okay, what about vacancies? Do we have any vacancies in the 330?
We do currently have some vacancies, yes.
We do, okay. I know that we're going to adopt this tonight, but I mean, obviously, we need to tighten our belts as much as we can. So I don't know if there's any action you want to take at this point in time. Have we hired the other 2 police officers already that we just authorized in November?
No, they're in the process of recruitment.
Recruitment, okay.
And as far as administrating the vacancies, we have been very frugal to not fill all those vacancies. There are some vacancies I do feel we need to fill for operation purposes due to the understaffing of some departments. But for the most part, we have withheld hiring a lot of vacancies till we find out what the outcome of the state has been. And now that we know, we will, I will have to look at all the filling the vacancies, and I probably won't be filling them all. I just might fill one or two of them.
Okay, and those are projected in your year-end budget projections?
Those are currently in our year-end budget.
And on the SAFER grant, I know that when we had the 12 positions authorized last time in the grant, our intent was to, as people retired, fill those 12 people into permanent positions, and we didn't quite achieve that. I think we got down to about 8 people that were still under the SAFER grant. And you said the positions were reduced, but we actually did lay off people, correct? Yeah, okay. Okay, I don't think we're too far off on the mid-year projections. I know people come up here and they blame the City Council for a lot of the financial stuff that the state burdens us with, and I can only say, as far as the $11.5 million that was involved in the lawsuit, this council's decided to appeal it, which I think is a smart decision. We got to fight. I mean, we can't just give in. I mean, over my term on the City Council and the state, actually since about the year 2000, they've taken over $30 million of the money from the city. And I know Mr. Shoemaker says how well the school districts are doing, but yeah, a lot of that money was transferred from city revenue to the school districts and to the special funds and stuff. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, it was. But anyway, so I mean, I would love to see some legislator adopt some kind of a bill that had some relief for cities, because we're the front line. Our police and fire are the guys that are protecting the people of the state of California, and time and again we get squeezed. And I know that we're going to be coming up to negotiations here with both of our public safety unions and our employees unions, and it's not a rosy picture. And I know that the anger will be directed at the City Council, but doggone it, I wish there was some anger directed, more at the state of California. And, we have a oversight board here that it's to me, and I know people don't totally understand how the oversight board works, but here you have a board that was set up through the dissolution of redevelopment that handles millions and millions of dollars that they have the oversight over, and some of them are appointed by the county, some are appointed by the city, some are appointed as representatives for the school districts and things like that. But these people are accountable to no one. They're handling millions and millions of dollars, and they're not elected by a public aid or by any city or organization, and yet they make decisions, and it's a political entity because they are lobbied by different people on different sides. And fortunately they've stuck with the city on a lot of this stuff, but that can turn in a dime. And as I see and I look at these oversight boards around the state, it's kind of party politics in some areas, and we're the pawn. I mean, the city's in the middle. So I understand people would love us to just repay the $11 million, but I think it's a wise decision to appeal this, because I think the judge made a poor decision, and I think we could win an appeal. So other than that, those are my editorial on the budget this year, but I appreciate staff doing their due diligence here. Councilman Warshaw.
Mr. Mayor, in regards to the 2 positions for the police officers, I was against, prior to being on this council, in refinancing, because it costs the city a lot over the years. But now that we have done it, I don't want to take that away from our police department. If we were going to not fill those 2 positions, we should have never refinanced it. So I would be totally against not filling those 2 positions. As the mayor stated, redevelopment has been a major problem since the state wants money. When you say, do we appeal or not to appeal, a lot of you said, well, we shouldn't be appealing because there's litigation costs. What you do have to remember is everything that the city had done was basically legal in the loans that was made between the city and the redevelopment agency. Whether you feel it was right that it was done is a different story, but it was legal. And all of a sudden the state says, now, no, we changed our mind, even though you did this years ago, it's now illegal and you don't deserve the money. That's just not right, and that's why this council feels that an appeal is the best way. And actually, this next appeal is actually very inexpensive when you look at $11.5 to $12.2 million. So I just wanted to give you my opinion on some of that. Thank you.
Councilmember Spence.
I was going to talk about redevelopment, but I agree. I mean, there's lots of redevelopment stuff I've never liked, but it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. But as we go on, I'm actually maybe in a weird spot because I guess I'm kind of more optimistic that we're going to get, the auto mall properties going, and we're going to see increases in our revenue. We have developments that will bring property tax revenues. So maybe I'm looking at it a little optimistically. And which is not like me, so maybe, I don't know. But one of the things that would be helpful in the future would be, in dealing with public safety in particular, is, okay, it's easy for us to say, hey, go ahead and add a cop. Go ahead and add, but sometimes we just can't add a cop. What does that mean for the whole, what kind of cop should we add? And we would need those kind of priorities, especially with fire. You just can't say, oh, we're going to add one more fire guy back. Usually it takes some kind of team and organization of the units and that kind of stuff. And so it'd be helpful as we go through the process to have, the new chief of police and our fire and stuff, that they would, kind of outline what their priorities, what they see as priorities for us to fund should we get past some of this redevelopment stuff and have increased revenues that we could then utilize towards public safety. That would be helpful for me. That I wouldn't just be going, oh, we'll add one, or whatever, but, hey, this is what I think we need first.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on the 2013-14 mid-year budget report?
I'll move.
Okay, moved by Toma. Do we have a second? Second by Sykes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next item, number 14, the permits to carry concealed weapons. This was Councilmember Spence's item.
Yeah, I know there's a motion on here to receive and file the report. In the report, there were a couple things I want to draw attention to because some of our speakers drew attention to them, and I think because of that, the report is inaccurate. One of the first things is I think there's a common belief that people can just walk in and get a CCW permit, and you cannot. In the state of California, even with the appeals court decision striking down the good cause, you still have to go through some required training. You can't be convicted of certain crimes. You have to pass the DOJ standard on mental health in order to get that. So it's not like just anyone can walk in off the streets and get it. But in the report, actually, Mr. Kaufman talked about Orange County, but also Ventura County, and there's other jurisdictions that are following the law. And in here it says, as a matter still being deliberated, which I'm not sure that's completely accurate in the scope of things. But local and county police centers stand by for further directives from the courts. I don't think that's the case. I think that there are some places that have been implementing it, and then there's some places that are saying they're not going to follow the law, or they're going to wait on the law. And I have problems approving a report that says we're not going to follow the law, which is what this says. The second thing is, in here, it says, it says have the proper firearm registration documentation. That's another aspect everybody has to have. But then it has a definition of good cause that, based on the question I asked earlier to the city manager, is not actually in our police. It's in LA counties, but it's not in West Covina's police standards or policy, right? Ours follows state law where it just says good cause, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I mean, in this report, they have a definition in here that's not in the police policy, and so I don't think that should have been there either. So I just have a problem approving a report that says we're not going to follow the law, because that's what it says we're going to wait. And I understand that people want to wait and see what happens and all that kind of stuff, but the fact is, if you can't trust the police department to enforce the law, then, who does? Who does? And I don't want to get involved in litigation on this, and I don't think our current standards do that, because the County of San Diego had defined good cause to be very, very stringent. But I just thought those inaccuracies in the report needed to be changed. Mr. Kaufman pointed some of them out.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Toma.
So a statement and a question for clarification. So I do work for the Attorney General's office, but just for the public, I don't work on anything relating to this issue. I haven't spoken to anybody who's involved in this issue. But I do have a question for clarification. My understanding from a press account was that the issue had been stayed, and I wonder if Mr. Glassman knows if that's the case or not. Because the report says that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals of the U.S. Supreme Court could issue a stay, and my understanding was that last Friday that the Ninth Circuit did issue a stay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, yes, according to the information that our office has, that the ruling has been stayed and is not binding at this time upon any governmental agency. The Office of the California Attorney General has requested the court to review and reverse its decision. They took that step on February 27th of this year, and on February 28th, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals announced that it had issued a stay of the ruling.
Well, I thought Kamala Harris was asking to take over the case. I thought that was the issue that was actually being decided. She's not in a position to actually ask for the Ninth Circuit to review it, because she's not actually being sued by anybody. She asked to take over the County of San Diego's role in that.
Why don't we have the police chief come down? I think he probably knows.
I mean, is that correct? I mean, Kamala Harris asked to take over the place because the County of San Diego sheriff did not want to continue with litigation, much like many of our residents don't want to continue with litigation. He didn't want to, and so she's trying to take over that case, which is a different issue than she can't appeal until she can get approval to take over the case.
Here's our police chief, Dave Faulkner.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mayor Herford, members of council, audience, and residents at home. My name is Dave Faulkner. I'm the chief of the West Covina Police Department. The following staff report is in response to a request by Councilmember Spence on the status of the Ninth Circuit Court decision concerning carried concealed weapons. In this report, I will address the application process, number of permits issued, requirements, and how the Peruta v. San Diego decision is being addressed in Los Angeles County. The application process and review, the West Covina Police Department has not received any applications in 2013. In addition, there are no active CCW permits on file with the department. Active permits are valid for 2 years from the date of issuance. 2 CCW permits were approved for West Covina Police Department Level 1 Reserve officers in line with the legislation which took place January 1st of 2014. West Covina Police Department CCW applicants must meet the following guidelines. Be a resident of the city of West Covina, be at least 21 years of age, fully complete an application that includes a substantial personal information, be free from criminal convictions that would disqualify the applicant from carrying a firearm, be of good moral character, show good cause for the issuance of a license, pay all associated fees, firearm ownership registration documentation must be provided, be free from any psychological conditions that might make the applicant unstable for carrying a firearm, and complete the required firearm training. On February 13th of 2014, the United States Court of Appeals, Peruta v. County of San Diego, in a 2-to-1 decision, invalidated one of the key requirements in the application process, that being good cause. In the written opinion, the court wrote, beyond a concern for one's safety, good cause infringed on the constitutional protections of the Second Amendment. However, in the decision, the court recognized that it's necessary and appropriate to conduct an investigation to determine if a CCW applicant is responsible and law-abiding. In the end, the court also recognized there was a division of opinions among the 5 U.S. Circuit courts. More importantly, the court remanded the matter back to the lower court for further action. Further action could be as follows. The decision could be withdrawn by a decision to rehear the case. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals or the U.S. Supreme Court could issue a stay. The decision could become final, upending the entire California firearm regulatory scheme by making it the default setting that a person can carry a concealed firearm unless there is good cause not to do so. Local agencies are standing by for further directive from the courts. As such, the West Covina Police Department, like other surrounding agencies, is not making any changes in our CCW policy at this time. I spoke to the San Gabriel Valley Police Chief, Paul Cooper, from Claremont to ask that very question, has there been any further changes I'm not aware of in the last few days? He said to his knowledge, no other agencies in San Gabriel Valley have changed their CCW permit process as a result of any of the stays that have been issued or recognized by the city attorney. I'm ready to answer any questions you might have of me.
Dave, are you aware if there's any stay that was provided on whether there was a stay that was issued?
I'm aware that Camilla Harris moved forward to say that she was going to appeal the case, but I had not been updated as far as the city attorney's most recent research. This report was written before those other stays were put in place.
Council member also inquired as far as whether Camilla Harris has taken over the San Diego's position or something else.
Yes. Her motion was in response to Sheriff Miller's decision not to appeal the case. As Councilman Spence mentioned, he decided to opt to move forward as written. However, Camilla Harris has come out along with the other folks that have decided to take up that appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court after it's mandated down. So the case is still in flux to a certain degree, and for that reason, many of the agencies, including the LA County Sheriff's Department, LAPD, none of them have issued any changes in their policy. The most recent email that I got, that I pulled up from the LA County's website, specifically giving direction, listed the three requirements that were brought forth, the decision not to be, could be withdrawn and so forth that I repeated. Those came straight from LA County as well.
Do you have a definition?
Could you turn your mic on?
Yeah. Do you have a definition of what good cause is?
Well, good cause in our policy matches what the penal code says, as you pointed out. It says simply good cause in parentheses. However, good cause is a definition that's really interpreted at the recommendation of the individual police chief or sheriff of that particular county. I happen to agree with the recommendation that comes from LA County, and that's why I sent that forward through our city manager earlier this week. To read that, it comes down to good cause shall exist only if there is convincing evidence of a clear and present danger to life or of great bodily harm to the applicant, his spouse, or dependent child, which cannot be adequately dealt with by existing law enforcement resources, in which danger cannot be reasonably avoided by alternative measures, in which danger would significantly be mitigated by the applicant carrying a concealed weapon. The West Covina Police Department policy does not define good cause, rather refers to the penal code sections which also do not define good cause. A great deal of latitude is provided to the police and sheriff in their review of the determination of what constitutes good cause. The aforementioned description meets what I consider to be a reasonable burden of proof to match what good cause would be in my eyes.
So does self-defense, I mean, we had someone ask that question here, self-defense where they have to work in areas late at night that have high crime rates, does that qualify as good cause?
In my definition, as I understand it, and as I just explained it, that does not meet the level of good cause, no, sir.
Okay, why wouldn't it?
Well, it doesn't meet any of the requirements that are listed here, and I can go back through those one at a time. If you'd like me to.
Well, I mean, because you would tell them to work other hours or in different places, or what alternative methods would you use?
Well, there has to be, according to this, and I would use it as the definition I provided you, there has to be clear evidence. And the clear evidence shall be a clear and present danger to life or great bodily harm of the applicant, his spouse, or dependent. It's not a mere mention of what you perceive would be the potential for that danger, but that you can articulate what that danger is. Did you want me to go further?
Oh, no, I disagree with your analysis of what good cause is. And I think this is why this is a thing that's gone to the court. Because I think I disagree with it.
Okay.
I think people have the right to defend themselves. So.
Any other questions of the chief? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We have a motion here to receive and file. Is there a motion?
Are we going to change the inaccuracies, or?
What's council's pleasure? I am willing, the chief has recommended no changes to the policy. I'm willing to stick
Well,
to
that's not what this, I'm talking about the report. We're filing and receiving a report. I mean, where it says, no, all agencies are standing by, that's not true. You know, the good cause, are we approving his version of good cause tonight? Because I think we should have more debate about that if we are. But I don't think we are by rescinding this report, are we?
It's up to you if you want to make changes. We'll have to do them by a motion, I think.
Well, maybe we need to wait and see what the appeals court actually says and whether or not Camilla Harris actually gets to appeal
That might
this
be a
case.
good solution.
So why don't we do that? And then But at some point, I think we need to have a discussion what good cause means, and based on the definition that limits the ability to be able to protect themselves.
Okay, so you want to just, if we receive and file this, it can come back, or we can just take no action?
I'm fine taking no action.
Okay, you want to make that motion?
I move that at this point we take no action on this report.
Okay, do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Moved by Spence, second by Warshaw. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, 5-0. Okay, Councilmember Toma, the city attorney request for proposals.
Thank you, Mayor. The city attorney is arguably the second most important position in the city after the city manager.
Oh.
I'm excluding. Did I say employee? I meant to say employee. We spent millions of dollars in both attorney expenses and judgments in the last few years. We, as somebody else I think previously said, we've not issued an RFP in 10 years. My expectations are that there will be a lot of interest in applications. I think that's a good thing. Staff did a pretty comprehensive job drafting the RFP. I had a couple concerns on the RFP just with respect to potential burden. There's a Roman numeral 2 under proposal content qualifications. It's actually on page 5C. I'm sorry, page 5, number 4C. Says, describe the staffing of your office, including all permanent and temporary employees and their general duties and work schedules, including any changes you would propose now in the future. And that might be fine for like a solo, or if it's a small firm that's only got a few attorneys, I think that's fine. But I think that should be specific to the people who it's planned to work on behalf of the city of West Covina, and not some firm that has a bunch of lawyers who would never do anything for West Covina. It just doesn't make sense to require everybody in their entire office to do that. And I just wanted to clarify that. Maybe that was the city's intention already.
We can certainly make that change.
Okay. And then the other concern I had was on page 8 with respect to conflicts of interest under Roman numeral 5. It asks for all public and private clients for the last 5 years. And again, I worked at a private law firm for 6 years, and I think the provision of every single client we'd had for the past 5 years could be an incredibly burdensome obligation. Now, certainly any firm would have to identify potential conflicts, and we'd have to work with them to make sure that there aren't any conflicts with the city. And public clients, I think that makes sense. I think that's got to be a limited number of public clients that they probably have had. It's not going to present a burden. But I don't want to pose any sort of requirement that's so onerous and burdensome it might get a law firm in trouble with clients so that they would be discouraged from applying to the city. So those are just my two concerns. I think it's I think it's the right time. I think we should be making sure that the city is paying is getting very good quality services at a good cost. And so I think this is time for us to issue an RFP like this.
And if I can just address 5.2, we could make the change that it would be to identify any potential conflicts with respect to any private clients.
Is that also because, thank you for bringing that. I had the same question because large firms would have a problem with some of this stuff. 2 and 3? I mean, is it 3 as well? It's the same thing?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because I thought a big firm would really have problems. And also there's some private clients that there may be different kinds of agreements that they don't want. So as long as it includes 3 as well.
Okay, any other comments? Did you digest that, what we're going to do there?
Yes, I fully understand.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Toma.
I'll move to approve the RFP.
Second by Sykes. With the changes. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's 5-0. Next item, review of West Covina Municipal Code, campaign contributions. Councilman Warsh.
Mr. Mayor, I asked this to be brought up. However, it is getting late tonight, and we still have closed session after this, and it's already at 10:45. I would like to hold this over till the next meeting, but I just wanted to make a few comments. This is something that we need to get done before we start the next election cycle, so everybody knows what the playing field is. I've heard some comments that people thought that the public should have comments and be able to do that. And by no means do I not want that to happen. All I was trying to do was to get this change started. I expect that individuals throughout the city would send to staff, send to council members their thoughts, their ideas. If council would like to have a separate meeting for the general public, I am not opposed to that. There are certain things that I was looking to do, and some of those comments were made tonight. One being that we try to limit organizations, businesses that are doing business with the city, giving the impression that they are trying to control votes. And that's why I liked Glendale's, because they limit any contract over $50,000 from companies actually donating to candidates for city council. With that being said, there are other areas, but I would like to hold this over.
Yeah, Councilmember Spence.
Yeah, this is one of the issues, I've talked to Corey a lot about it, and we differ on some stuff on here. I come from a little bit more free political speech thing, but I think it's important to always point out that, and we have to decide how we deal with this, is that there are two areas we cannot regulate, and that is independent expenditures. There's nothing to keep a company coming in, like we saw in the last election, and spending all the money they want on behalf of their candidates. I do want to point out that that didn't work. And so necessarily spending the most money doesn't necessarily mean you end up on the city council, or some of us wouldn't be here if that was the case, because we were outspent by other candidates. And the second thing that you cannot control, so the idea that somehow we'll keep businesses from having influence in the election because we're not taking $500 or $1,000 means nothing if they can spend $100,000 or $60,000 or whatever they want. And that goes for employee unions, etc. The other thing is we can't stop people from donating their own money. Wealthy candidates or candidates that take out whatever kind of thing, if someone puts in $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, we can't do anything about that. So that really kind of upsets the idea of trying to figure out how to level it. One of the ideas that I want to throw out for us to think about is to look how the state has done that, where they've done it a little bit. I still think it limits free speech, but not as bad as some other draconian measures, where there are spending limits set up. You agree to spending limits, and that means you have access to, like a ballot statement. If you don't, if you say you're going to blow the limits, you don't. And so every candidate has to decide at the beginning what their spending limits are. And we set a spending limit and those kinds of things. And so anyways, that's something a little different than what we've talked about in the past of just limits, but that's how the state regulates the state elections is, you agree at the beginning you won't spend more than X amount of money. And there's still limits within that, but then whether you're wealthy or not, what the spending limit is. And there's different benefits if you agree to that than if you don't. So anyways, with that, I'll stop.
Yeah, I agree with some of the stuff both of you said, but let me ask this question. In our local elections here, if there is a violation on the local level, who regulates that? Do you as city clerk, Ms. Rush?
No, I don't regulate the local ordinances. My job is to be the filing officer and not enforcement.
So it's the FPPC, and how do they really understand what our laws are?
They don't.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I may, yes. Generally speaking, the FPPC will not enforce local regulations, nor will, as a general rule, nor will the district attorney's office. It's been my experience. So the question becomes who regulates that or who would be the enforcing body. Quite frankly, it could conceivably be the city prosecutor, which is not our office, it's a separate office. In my experience, I'd have to check with other cities, but it is rare that there are enforcement steps for those that violate local regulations. Now, if it was a state, if there are state regulations, then certainly the FPPC can impose fines, and the DA's office will intervene and at times prosecute violations of state law.
Okay.
Also,
And that would be my concern, and when we bring this back, I mean, obviously, if we can't enforce the laws, then maybe we should just go with the state laws, so that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilman Warshaw.
My understanding is if we had punishments, an ordinance saying if you do this, there's a $1,000 fine or possible jail time or something like that, we can enforce that.
Are you asking me?
No, that's for...
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, well, any violation of the West Covina Municipal Code carries with it the potential for both civil and or criminal penalties. So if there is a violation of the campaign contribution provisions of the municipal code, that could lead to criminal prosecution. As I said, however, my experience is that the district attorney's office is not going to enforce local campaign regulations. They would then turn back to the city to enforce their own rules. And we do have a city prosecutor. I would be interested to see if they would, how they would handle a request for prosecution.
Okay. Well, I just, when we bring this back, maybe a discussion of the teeth that anything would have is important to me. Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Thank you, sir. I wish to reiterate the point brought forth by Councilman Warshaw, in that it's obvious we need to put some teeth, bite, some kind of enforcement, some kind of punishment to hold people accountable. That's very important. The next thing I'm hoping that we can do, we do have a lot of experienced folks who have run, who have sit in these seats that are still alive, and if we can get some sort of commission that's not going to cost the city, perhaps a volunteer program, that we can get some input from those folks to help us going forward, because the bottom line is the pursuit of money. You can see it every day, I shouldn't say every day, but oftentimes in folks that are being prosecuted, and it boils down to just the pursuit of money to campaign with. And it's been very corrupting. And the people that end up paying are the residents. So we do need this, and let's make sure we get as much input as we can bringing this back. Thank you.
Councilman Rotoma.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, this is a very, I think everybody, well, I shouldn't assume it, but it seems like most of the people on this council believe that some things need to be changed. This is such a comprehensive area. It's one of these things where really it ought to be discussed, because there are so many nuances to what you could do and so many different subjective opinions based on different theories about what the purpose of these is. It's very challenging to sort of tell a staff person, okay, fix this, because we're all going to have different ideas, I think, about how that could be fixed, and it really would benefit. I don't know if there's something that we could do along the lines of, what some gentleman mentioned, what Mr. Sykes said about getting some sort of input, because I just see it as incredibly challenging. There's some very simple things about, the by check only that we probably could do very easily, but if we're talking about doing some things more comprehensive that go towards the core of our elections and democracy, it's going to be very challenging to figure out how we're going to do that with the Brown Act limitations and the inability to actually have a free-flowing discussion between ourselves. So I pose the idea, I know this is coming back, and I know Councilman Warshaw initiated this, but if there is something that can be done with getting input from the community, because this really is, to me, a community democracy sort of issue, and I'm a little bit reluctant to make wholesale changes to the code without some input. And I know it's a good idea that people come and talk to us about this thing. We always encourage that. But I'm concerned that we're not going to get a huge amount of input, so we're going to have to make decisions that's sort of my subjective belief as to what makes sense. And I don't know if that's necessarily representative of what the community wants. I think there are some things that it's easy to make that call, and there's some things that are going to be very difficult to make that call because it's going to be very varying decisions. So I do actually like the idea that's been suggested about possibly having some way of getting more input. And if you have ideas about how we might focus this, I could certainly agree to, on some very focused issues, just do it with ourselves. But I do sense problems trying to get either our city attorney or anyone else to sort of develop a proposal from all of us.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what we can do as we bring it back is I can speak to the city attorneys of the other jurisdictions that have had recent comprehensive review of their local ordinances. For example, City of Glendale, Michael Garcia actually used to work for our firm, and I could ask him what was the methodology they applied in trying to receive public input. Because as the council has articulated, this is a pretty big elephant to try and carve up. And in trying to address the number of issues, and as we explored the various other local ordinances, you'd find there are so many different variations on a theme of the same basic concepts. But we can attempt to explore what other communities have done in attempting to receive public input, manage this issue in a fashion that still allows for the public dialogue and the council input. So we'll address that.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I would like to do that. In addition, I'd like to take a look at maybe have check with like Common Cause or someone else to find out what challenges have been when you make these changes, what's going to be overruled by the courts, so that we can try and stay away from those items. So I think it would be good for you and staff to do some more research before we bring this back.
Okay. Do you have direction?
Yes.
Make sure you check Common Cause. Make sure you check with different free speech groups, because Common Cause isn't necessarily for free speech, but the free speech arguments are the ones that, why we have IEs, why people can spend their own money, all that kind of stuff. So those are the kinds of things. So.
Okay. I think you have direction. So we'll just bring that back another meeting.
Yes, we will.
Doesn't have to be the next meeting, but
No, this is going to require substantial more.
yeah. Well, and I think maybe when we do the goal setting with the individual guy, maybe that guy can ask a question about how do you feel about campaign finance or something, because I don't know. Anyway, we'll bring that one back. Final item on the agenda tonight is the review of, a request from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. This item dealing with marijuana dispensaries, as I am out in public, out for sales, parkways, I see evidence of use, and we are trying to protect. I think everybody here wants to protect their interests that they have in the city, why they invested in West Covina. And one of the primary things is about having and maintaining a healthy city, a healthy environment for our children, healthy environment for all of us who live here. And we have Diamond Bar that's already made a move to deal with these dispensaries. I understand Covina. And so there have been quite a few cities that are making moves, and if we stand by and do nothing, it indicates that we are approving it. And so I think we need to move to address and protect our quality of life here, and that's why I brought this forward, to get the support of the council to declare a moratorium on this type of activity and do some research to see how we can protect our way of life. Thank you.
Okay. That would be brought back at the next meeting for the moratorium. Oh, Councilmember Spence.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I already addressed this actually with I'll go ahead and vote for this, but I think a component of this, on this issue, I think that when you look at where this issue is going, you have the federal government that says they're not going to enforce the laws. I don't know how the chief executive has to do that, but I guess that you do. And, you have votes in other states already on this issue. You have votes already in California on medical marijuana. My concern is that at some point a total ban may be struck down as not being legal. And what I would like to see happen is that we already have a plan in place where we treat medical marijuana dispensers similar to adult ordinances where they're zoned in different places. People can't have a history of drug trafficking or whatever in order to have a business permit, those kinds of things, that should it be struck down, this law would automatically go into effect. So there's not a window where it's unregulated, and it would take all this time and effort to get it done. So where it would be, even if we voted for a prohibition, there would be saying that should a prohibition be deemed illegal, by courts or the legislature or whatever, this is what our regulatory scheme is.
Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Yes, just quickly, I would like to give an example of why I believe in preemptive activity. All around us, we have our neighbors that are selling alcohol at the places where you purchase fuel, where you purchase your gasoline. And because of the foresight of some council members perhaps 20, 30 years ago, they made a law here in West Covina of how they want West Covina to be. And they said, we are West Covina, we're not these other places. And they put in provisions that said you will not sell alcohol in gas stations. And so when people started to get these fast food places and quick stop and shop locales connected to gas stations, they began to want to sell alcohol. And it rose to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court respected what West Covina did by grandfathering that law in to protect our way of life and what we wanted West Covina to be. So that's why I believe that we need to be, again, responding with preemptive action. Thank you.
Okay, this is going to come back in a staff report. I think you've got some input from two council members here. So I do have a motion to bring this back for...
My motion is to bring it back and so we can go forward with this moratorium. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Toma. All those in favor?
Oh, it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. It's
Actually, staff would be recommending a moratorium to bring back to freeze it at this point in time in order that we can go to the Planning Commission and get some direction as far as how to address this, both what Councilmember Spence has raised and also looking at the banning of it in its entirety.
Okay, so we're not doing an
However,
option.
that's what staff recommends. Council can certainly give us alternative direction.
Okay, what was the motion again? To bring back a moratorium, is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and we had a second to that motion? So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
No.
What'd you vote? I didn't hear you.
Well, to bring back the moratorium or to bring back
The moratorium.
this whole issue?
Just the moratorium.
Just the moratorium.
Oh, the moratorium. We don't need a moratorium, do we?
That's what they just...
Oh, okay, we don't need a moratorium. So you're saying no? Yes.
Okay, so that's, the motion failed on the moratorium issue 2-3 with Toma and Sykes in favor and Warshaw, Hereford, and Spence against. Now, if you want to bring back a motion to bring the issue back with the options of a moratorium and other options, that's another story.
I'd like to, well, the way, how was it worded in here? Worded differently than Mr. Sykes.
I think the wording in the staff report is to instruct staff to initiate a code amendment and bring back a moratorium. So one would be a code amendment, the second would be a moratorium. Sounds like you've already made the decision on the moratorium, so the question is, do you want to instruct staff to bring back a code amendment initiation.
I'll make a motion that you bring the item back with options, such as what Councilmember Spence said and what Councilmember Sykes also said, which includes the moratorium, so we can have a choice. Because I don't know, I mean, I'm not an expert in this stuff.
I'll second the
Okay,
mayor's
we have a motion and a second. This will come back. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that takes us to councilmember comments. Any city council comments?
I would just like to say shop till you drop, starting May 7th at Macy's on behalf of the city and in particular Walmarado Park. Thank you.
March 7th, right? Or
March 7th, right.
Okay, you said May. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Warshak.
I've heard some comments when I asked to use some of our funds from the art fund that to do our Veterans Memorial, that this was use of taxpayer dollars. These are fees that were collected from developers. It is not tax money, so I just wanted to clarify this isn't taxpayer money that's being used. These are strictly fees from development.
With restricted use.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments, or anything? Okay. Let me just say, I know that the Corey Lytle statue issue is still out there, and whenever staff is ready to bring that back with some kind of information to the council, I know we're still looking for the individuals, but I definitely believe we should do whatever we can to bring the statue back to the site and do, and I know staff's looking at stuff, so if you get information on that, hopefully that can be achieved. So with that, we have an adjournment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make sure that we adjourn our meeting tonight in memory of Norma Marks, who passed away. She was active in the Women's Club and in our community for a lot of years, and actually she was honored at the fair just this last fall as the senior hometown hero for West Covina Day. And I know our thoughts and prayers go out to the Marks family, but I think we should adjourn in her honor.
Okay, I think we'll do the adjournment after the closed session. Is that correct?
Well, actually, you are adjourning the regular meeting this evening.
Okay.
You have the special meeting, which was adjourned yesterday, so that, if I can make the announcement before we go back upstairs. So you can adjourn this meeting at
Okay,
this time.
so we have a motion. I'll make a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Also, Mr. Mayor, Commander Murray's father passed away.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't have any information on that, but do you?
I'm sorry, Chief, can you provide that information, please?
Good evening. Commander Murray's father-in-law is actually who passed away. His wife's down in San Diego currently making the arrangements with the family, so he's been in and out this week. He passed away this past, I believe, Friday, and they're working through the arrangements with the family. So at this point, we're doing everything we can to support him within the organization.
Do you have his name?
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
The gentleman's name?
I'd have to pull it up on my email, but
Well, we have
okay.
that information, so we can...
Absolutely. All right, so we'll adjourn in his memory, too, so thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Oh, no, that's correct.
Yeah.
Right. And now, if I may announce, at this time, we'd ask the City Council to reconvene in the council and the City Manager's boardroom for purposes of conducting the adjourned special meeting from last night regarding the City of West Covina versus Hassan imports et al. And the various cases related thereto. That would be for the special meeting, adjourned special meeting.